been put down.
Yeah.
Of course, security, there are a lot of things that if someone compromises your security, if someone gets to understand that probably if Eddie is dealing with Adrian, the transaction that happens probably is 1 million shillings or is 5 million shillings, that's vital information. If it's put out there, probably someone would say, oh, Eddie was overcharging us, or Eddie is undercharging us, you know. So that information is key. Now, the information initially, of course, used to sit on the gadgets. Yeah, on the gadgets, whereby you have your PC, which you secure very hard. That's why the issues we had initially was about viruses. You know, because they understood, the guys who do the viruses understood that your data sits on your computer.
Correct.
So if I compromise it, and you're not able to access it, then I've attained that was the initial security. Now we've moved from now having data sitting on devices to we transform to a server-based kind of solution, whereby if we're in an organization like here, our data is seated on one PC, and because machines are interconnected through physical or wirelessly to that central machine, which is a server, we're able to communicate. But now remember, the security there was not really, maybe someone would physically break in, and probably steal the server. All the virus will probably encrypt or disorganize the files that you have seated on the PC. Now, we've moved from there. We transformed now from that management to be able to have Eddie work from home and be able to access the server. I remember you talked about the VPN connection, the virtual private networks, whereby I would guarantee Eddie that wherever he is able to securely access the server here, which is seated in his office, and able to transfer the files or share or edit. If it's a document, if it's a pipeline document you are editing, you need to make sure that that connection is secure.
Hello and welcome to the CEO Bench. My name is Adrian Kamoga and this is House of Talent Television. The CEO Bench brings you the guest today who is a security expert, a man who is, heavily invested into the business of cybersecurity and infrastructure development in Uganda. is a company that started about 10 years ago. And 2015, he branched into cybersecurity and infrastructure development and enterprise, bringing solution to businesses and, making things that business more secure for us all. Ladies and gentlemen, all across the world, the guest on the CEO Bench this particular morning, afternoon, or night, depending on which part of the world you are actually watching the CEO Bench from, is Adrian Kamoga. Adrian, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Here we spread love, according to Pastor Joshua Mugabe. He says when we do this, you have to spread your fingers to give love out here.
I remember that.
How are you?
Thank you, Eddie, for hosting me.
Great.
Yeah, great stuff.
And to start with, Adrian, we want to know, who is Adrian Kamoga?
Wow. My name's Kamoga Adrian.
Yes.
I'm from Masaka.
Yes.
The
place that has many problems.
No, I love it.
Yes.
Yes. So, I'm a businessman.
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm an expert in computing.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, my journey started a couple of years back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not been easy.
Okay.
Yeah. But over the time, I've learned a couple of things. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So on that note, if a person is trying to get to know, first of all, are you Ugandan? If yes, what are the values that define you as a Ugandan?
Well, I'm Ugandan.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely I'm Ugandan. I'm born here, and I've studied here.
Okay.
I'm not from MIT or what. I'm just from Uganda. Yes,
okay.
Yes, I'm Ugandan.
And Adrian, what are the values that define you as a Ugandan?
Well, a lot of things, but majorly is that I've done so much to make sure that we grow the ICT sector of Uganda. Yeah. Okay. I would have gone to other countries. I had opportunities to do my business in Tanzania, in Kenya, but I said no. My core value is to see that the ICT sector in Uganda grows. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the people who nominated you to come to the program seems to think that you are one of those people who have been doing great stuff onto, the ICT sector in Uganda.
Yeah.
But a lot of us don't understand what the ICT is about. We are always talking about ICT.
Yeah.
We never sort of like get to the bottom line of a definition of what an ICT is and what is this enterprise solution that we're talking about that people should know.
Okay.
We're talking about cybersecurity to start with. What is really cybersecurity?
Well, I will start from ICT.
Yes.
Because I remember back in the day when I was still studying, and when I told my mother I was going to do computer science, all her hopes were in me doing medicine because I did PCB math.
Yes.
So when I told her that I'm going to do computer science, she said, "Oh, what are you going to do? Maybe you're going to be playing music, putting music on people's CDs." Yes. Well, it was quite completely the opposite, and took me some time to explain to her.
Yeah.
ICT is information computing technology. As of now, I would talk about, I would say it's digitization.
Yeah.
It could be going digital on everything. Yeah. It's a combination of a lot of things, from gadgets, from the technology, from the connection of how you're able to stream whatever you're streaming now.
Yeah.
It's all IT.
Okay.
Yeah. So how those networks work, how they interconnect, how the devices communicate in an environment. Yeah. Now, when we go to an enterprise, well, we are focused on enterprise technology, and I used to have a lot of inquiries back in the day. Someone comes to me and says, "Oh, I need a computer. I want to buy a computer for myself." And sometimes I would tell them, "Okay, we can help you as an individual, but that's not our focus." So the enterprise is, we focus on provision of solutions to all verticals. The financial sector, the education, government. You're looking at big kind of organizations. Okay. That's now the enterprise bit.
Okay.
So cybersecurity is making sure that the environment we operate in is secure.
Okay.
The cyberspace.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, when someone wants to understand how computing works, it's like, I know Eddie is my friend, so we get to connect and talk and share.
Yeah.
So in the computing environment, there's also a connection.
Okay.
And that's how the internet comes about, the inter-network, whereby I could be here and I'm able to communicate to someone in the US. Yeah. I could be here and maybe the server that hosts my emails is probably running in UK, but I can be able to access it here. So now the connection, how we communicate, now there need to be some bit of security, because probably someone wants to know exactly what is Eddie communicating to me.
Yes.
And that's when the security bit comes in.
Okay.
Because probably the hacker would want to know exactly which kind of communication are you having, and what are you sharing. Are you sharing private stories? And that could be vital information for that person. It's always shared and sold in the cyberspace, in the dark web.
Wow. We're actually going to get into that bit of the dark web and the white head and the white hat, the black hat. Well, we are welcoming you to the CEO bench. Of course, Adrian Kamoga right here, and of course, Adrian Kamoga, who is our guest, today on this particular, CEO bench program. He was nominated by over 25 votes to come into the CEO bench, and the people in the technology world said, "You hosted Elijah Chitaka. We need another, discussion about our sector on the CEO bench." We've got some CEOs. Normally people in the technology are not known. They hide from people. They can't talk very nicely because they talk in more of a technical point of things than to explain things. they tend to be the back end of things. But we want to bring the technology people to the forefront. We want to bring the CEOs, the investors in this tech business out, and also to the space. Adrian, the particular TV program that you're on today, the CEO Bench, is a 1-hour weekly television program. It focuses mainly on individual leaders. Okay. And when we talk about that, we're looking at people in position of leadership. We're looking at people who have led self to a certain degree. For one to make it here, you must have made it to a certain degree of growth. Okay. So we want to look at the self-leadership, we want to look at the change management, we want to look at the, transformation. When we talk about self-leadership, how are you able to pick yourself from the beginning to where you are today? And I want to take you just a little bit back to start with the leadership part of that. Growing up in the streets of Masaka, if at all you were in the streets of Masaka or in Kampala, what were you looking for when you were growing up? What inspired you as a child? Before we get into, the deep end of leadership. Yeah. Yes. Well,
when it comes to leadership, my journey in leadership has been quite lengthy. Yeah. If I start from the composition of my family, I'm the second born. Yeah. In the unit of my family, in families we have extended families. I'm talking about particularly my father and mother. Yeah. I'm a second born and the firstborn boy. Okay. So leadership has been in me, in blood. Okay. Whereby in so many circumstances at home, I acted as a leader. I was always given the leadership position.
Just by the fact that you were the first boy.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and I remember when I was changing school from Shak to Kampala, from St. Henry's to Kampala, I actually became the head prefect at my A level. Yeah. So even during my course in the university, I always took the position of guidance and leadership. Yeah. So that's where my focus started from in terms of leadership. Okay. Yeah.
Did your father sort of like mentor you into becoming who you are today, or was your mother a leader, or was your father a leader? Who was in that position of leadership that was pushing you to make sure you become somebody of a development, of a significant human being in society?
Well, my father was a businessman. Yeah. He was a teacher, a professional teacher, and he was a headmaster. And even in my A-level school, he was he had a big position in the board of directors. So I always looked up to my father, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay.
First of all, the entrepreneurial bit, and then the leadership bit. Yeah.
How was that possible for a teacher to be a teacher and at the same time entrepreneurship? Did he own the school? How usually teachers are either teachers in African settings, they don't do much, and teachers all across the world are not very good entrepreneurs unless they live and cross. We've seen, of course, in recent times where teachers are crossing a lot more into the tech business, into the tech world, into the business world, but it wasn't before. You know, I mean, how was he able to do this back then, if you recall when you were young?
Well, my father initially was one of the first black deputy head teachers in St. Henry's College, Kitovu. Yeah, and that's how he got to be nominated. He has been on the board for a couple of Catholic institutions, SMARC. There's another school called Kasasa in Masaka. Yeah. So he transformed from being a head teacher to doing now private business, whereby he started his own school a couple of years ago. And then, of course, I studied in his school for the whole of my primary section. Yeah, and of course it was an inspiration how he could manage the business. His numbers grew from about 200 pupils to about 1,000. Okay. And of course we have a couple of people who have gone through his hands in Kampala. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Adrian, talking of the leadership, by the way, just before we take a small break, I want to ask you a question. You know, leadership and the definition of leadership is not something that is very, you know, taken lightly or understood by many people, for lack of a better word. What is your definition of leadership? And who is a leader to you? First of all, what is leadership and who is a leader to you?
Well, leadership to me is like guidance, you know, guiding people towards a certain vision. Okay. And being on top there, making the strategic decisions and making sure that you get to the top.
You as a person or you as the people?
As an institution.
Okay.
As an institution.
And who is a leader to you? To
me, a leader would be someone who now has the values of leadership. Because not everyone who is a CEO or a CFO, a CIO is a leader. Yeah. Some people actually fail to guide their teams to success. So if someone who has the values, the core values of leadership, is the person who...
And what would you term as the core value of leadership to you? If you would say, you mentioned the word quite a number of times. What is your core value of leadership?
Of leadership?
Yes.
So to me, some of the things is understanding, someone who understands the vision. Yeah. The vision. And then someone who can be able to manage a team of people, you know, because it's not easy to manage people when it comes to institutions, because people have their different, when you gather people into one place and have them focus towards a certain goal, that's a core value. Some people enter into leadership for probably growth of their careers, individual careers. But now when you're a leader, you stop thinking about yourself. You think about the people. Because whatever you do affects the entire institution, the entire probably department you're trying to run. Yeah.
Okay. And on that note, Adrian, are you a leader?
Well, I've been a leader since 2010, because that's when I decided to go into private business. I started as a CEO, and I'm still a CEO. Yeah. Well, and of course, it's evident in the market of what we've been able to achieve. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you go back from when you were a child, do you think you had the DNA of a leader?
I think so.
You are today?
Yeah, I think so.
How did you arrive to that point to say
I think so.
When you say
because I think I've always driven myself into leadership position. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, Adrian, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we want to be able to tackle the question of, cybersecurity. And you out there, we want you to drop us kisses and disses, your comments if we're doing well. We are, of course, live. You can catch us on Facebook, House of Talent Uganda, and you'll be, in things. And share that far wide. Subscribe to our Facebook, broadcast channel, as well as our YouTube, of course, House of Talent Uganda YouTube. Right there, House of Talent TV, and you'll be in things. We're also live on our, website. We cannot host the cybersecurity, CEO and not be able to do this thing like live on our www.houseoftalentug.com is live. Please go and share far and wide. It's for our all, wider family all across. The CEO Bench will take a break, and when we come back, the interview on the CEO Bench with Adrian Kamoga will continue shortly after the break.
There's a lot that is involved in the civil society organizations. There's leadership in itself, there's management of processes, there's management of the human resource, there's fundraising, there's research. It's a lot that needs to be done, and many times there is a feeling that is too much for a woman, because she has other traditional roles that she needs to do as at home. So many times, as people are looking for leaders in civil society organizations, the priority is usually given to men, because of our society that feels that men have the time, men have the capacity, men have the ability to lead, to take this organization to greater heights. And women, there will be a problem. They will have to go to maternity leave. They have issues. They are too emotional. They have not done the courses that are good enough for leaders. They don't have time to to go for extra learning, or to go for work outside Kampala, because they have to tend to their children. So there's too much that society has tied around a woman. And it's true. We have these traditional roles that we have to do, but does not in any way mean that women cannot lead in these spaces.
Welcome back from that break. This is the CEO Bench. My name is Adrian Kamoga, and my guest in the studio is Kamoga Adrian, who is the CEO and the founder of an ICT firm called the Standard ICT and Enterprise Solutions Uganda. He's been there in the business for some time. And Adrian, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
We are talking about leadership. And of course, if you're joining us from anywhere across the world, we want to say thank you very much for coming to the CEO Bench. The CEO Bench has a huge following from all across the world. And like you said, we already embraced the ICT world. Like you said, we're interneting with so many other people out there. We need to look into our cybersecurity if it's safe. That's why we're broadcasting on our website. So Adrian is an expert on cybersecurity, and he's been there since 2015 now as a specialist on that sector. Adrian, transformational leadership approach and leadership abilities that often define the leader's level of effectiveness is our focus this morning. And we've talked about leadership so far to that level. I want you to tell us something more now. Transitioning to starting your business, a lot of people don't understand what to do and how to do it. You are a young person who is leading self, and you've led self very well to this level, and we can see it. And then we've also looked into the change management or the management of change and development within self as a person, you as a person, how are you managing the change within yourself? And then we looked at the business or the similar organization that you are leading if you've now gotten yourself into, the leadership of that organization. And the third thing we always look for is the control identification and implementation of some of these things that we're talking about change as a person. We are moving from one environment to the next. It requires that we are very much organized.
Yeah.
To leave a job to go to a next job is not an easy for everyone. And people struggle to make their way up there. So many people don't know how to go about it. And it can be exhausting as well. And some people give up very easily. Then we look at what is next for that leader or for that CEO if you're moving. Have you ever been employed, by the way, when you're going into change management? Let's talk about your life from school to where you are now. How did you end up here?
Actually, my life is quite interesting. And sometimes when I'm meditating and I'm thinking about my journey, in how I've managed to build myself. I never went to school to study business. I never went to school to study leadership. It has been in me from day one, because way back when I was still in school, when I was still in A-level actually, I used to, I had the love for business. Because I remember that by that time I used to do clothing. I started a clothing business. And I used to organize tailors and then mobilize them, get contracts from schools, and be able to supply the uniforms to the schools. That was my journey in A-level. And then I did that up to my vacation. So when I went to campus, now I did my computer science bachelor's. Of course, the gene for business, the love for business and leadership was already in me. So I remember I went for internship somewhere, and from there I was able to now understand how the systems work, how business models in ICT work. This is what the component we always lack. We always go to school, learn the technology, but then when it comes to the business part, many people miss out. So I was able to get that touch as a trainee, and immediately after doing my training, I started.
Which organization was this?
The organization by then was called Mara Group of Companies. And under that, we used to be under a company called RAPS. So RAPS was one of the biggest companies by then, and it had very good leadership.
In ICT?
In ICT, yes. It was one of the biggest companies by then, but they were focused on infrastructure. So that is where I get the idea of infrastructure bit. And then I added on the cybersecurity later on.
So that change, how did you move from there? Were you employed before? Did you ever seek employment? For how long were you employed?
I never sought for employment. All I did was I decided when I was in university, I said I need to understand how business works in ICT. So definitely I had to go into a bigger company as a trainee, but not as an employee.
And how long were you able to take in that?
I was in RAPS I entered RAPS in 2009, sorry. And then I was there for about 1.5 years. Because I started my first company in 2010, October 2010, yes.
Adrian, I mean, a lot of people that may not understand this. This is actually a very interesting case study of the change management, but also transformational thinking from university. You've talked about being university and the ability for you to think entrepreneurial or entrepreneurship at that level. It's quite amazing. It's an incredible thought. The fact that you were a student at the university and you were thinking that I don't want to seek employment. Many of us were in the university. And the first thing we want to do is to work for a big organization.
Which is
when I get out, I want to work for MTN. When I get out, I want to work for Africa Online. When I get out, I want to work for, for Airtel of this world. I want to work for government. I want to work for this big organization. We are never thinking about working for ourselves or starting something for ourselves. But here you are telling us you're already thinking that direction. What influenced your decision to start thinking about entrepreneurship at that level? Why not seek for work Why not first do work, you know?
Well, like I've told you that my transformation was from, I was in the clothing business.
Yeah.
And I had thought, you know, I used to read books of Donald Trump, of Think Big.
Oh, yes.
My idea about all
yes.
my life,
yes.
I always look at the bigger picture of things.
Yeah.
Because even when I was in clothing business, I used to get guys from downtown Nakasero.
Yeah.
But my focus was to, I always often used to visit Phoenix in industrial area, because they used to do uniforms for bigger schools, and they used to handle bigger contracts.
Yeah.
So I used to always visit them so that I can try and understand how I can drive my business from just 2-3 schools to mass production of actually real clothing, line of clothing.
Yeah.
That was my focus. Now, the DNA in me was already business. So now, how I get into the idea of looking for a placement somewhere was to understand how systems work. And I was very, very humble in that company, to an extent that I actually grew from a trainee to an assistant, a technical manager, whereby I did about 3 contracts, whereby I was the team leader, and we did that across the entire country. I think by then it was for URI. We did actually maintenance for URI. So I had a team of about 6 guys, who were set in each region, and I had to make sure that they reach safely, they get accommodation, they get to do their job cards very well, and also we compile a report which was sent back to URA for final documentation for payments. Yeah. So I remember how I started my company. So in me, it was not employment. It was to understand, or if I want to go to MTN, my focus would be to run a telecom company. That is me. That's how I drive my focus. My focus should be to run a telecom company. So when I get into MTN, I would want to know how the contracts, how do I get a license from UCC? You know, how do I get, which kind of units are organized in MTN? We have the telecom part, we have the marketing and sales department, we have this. So then I'll go down to try to understand how the organization structure is, with the focus of putting up a telecom company. When I entered RAPS as a trainee, my focus was to understand how the systems work. I never looked for money. I was not paid for 6 months in RAPS. Very humble. I would walk from school to our office and make sure every day I understand how is the job card written. How do you pitch a sale to a customer? And lucky enough, God was on my side. I managed to be humble until when the Indian who was our technical manager identified me as a leader within the organization. And when I went to the leadership stage, now I was able to interact with customers. Because when there was an issue that was needed to be solved, I would get into a judge with him. He used to drive a Bajaj. And when we go to a customer, and then he tries to understand. Probably the engineer came, he did sort something, but probably it was not sorted the right way. So then I started to build customer relationship experience. That's how I moved out. And when I was moving out, this is what I did. I got 5 guys. It was 1 lady, 4 guys. One was 2-3 guys. For us, we were in technical, and then 1 guy was in sales. Was a big guy in the sales department, and then 1 lady. She was manager enterprise, but she was also in the technical department. Yeah. So I told them, you guys, you know what? Because by then RAPS was winding up business in Uganda. Yeah. So I told them, you know what? You guys have been in the market for a long time. You have your customers. So why don't we rebrand and tell them, yes, well, RAPS has closed the business, but we can be able to still offer the solutions to you. That's how I started my journey in business. So when I started, we had a couple of meetings, and I think the guys were good to go. So I started of course, it's always not easy. Partnership business is not easy, because as a leader, you want to drive everyone to be on the same footing. Yeah. But of course, not everyone catches up. has the speed that you're moving at. Yeah, of course, a couple of days broke off. The lady went to Canada, and the guy had a lot of responsibility, so he had to seek for employment somewhere because it was like a startup. The 3 guys, we tried to drive the business until 2014, when I realized that, okay, now I needed to run from normal IT now to the enterprise space. And of course, the team was a bit reluctant to change. So I said, now, if I have to go, I have to go in all. So that's how I transform into what I'm doing right now.
Wow. Yeah. We're talking to Adrian, and you've heard the story of what an amazing story right there, from campus, leading, going into an organization for 1.5 months and moving from there and starting a company. The mindset of a young man out of campus is an amazing story right there. And of course, the CEO Bench talks and looks at leadership, self-leadership, change management, and transformation. How are you able to lead yourself from one end to the next end? And how are you able to change your life from a poor, malnourished human being to a well-fed human being leading organization, okay? And of course, then that transformation, how does it look like? Do people understand it? Do people enjoy that journey of the transformation, or do people just simply don't understand you? Everything we do in life, it must lead to somewhere. That's what the CEO Bench is all about. And we're talking to Adrian Kamoga, who is the CEO, the founder and the CEO of Standard ICT Enterprise Solutions Uganda, a company that is providing now cybersecurity, solution business for businesses in Kampala and all across Africa. We're going to take another break, and when we come back, Adrian and I are going to dive into what is cybersecurity, deep end discussion on ICT. Tap your neighbor, tap your cousin, tap your brother and your sister, even the grandmothers and grandfathers who are not understanding how these things are, to come online. Let's have a conversation. Stay right there. I'll be right back after the break. Adrian Killer, Adrian Kamoga. We're taking a break on the CEO Bench. We'll be right back after this.
Thank you.
Dr. Jinpo Olowo. Thank you for watching House of Talent television. I love to inspire people. I love to talk about my experiences and how God has been able to use me in the different exposures. And through the leadership, through change management and transformation, I've been able to do a couple of things in my life. Now, are you a kind of person who is tired of your status quo? Do you want your situation to change? Are you tired of what is going on in your life? Change is a fact of life. We've all been through experiences in the last couple of months that have taken us to a place where we need to do something about our lives. We need to change whatever is going on. So if you have not piled up investment for yourself, you need to do that. If you've not done businesses to hold your family in future, you need to do that. Are you thinking of full-time employment? You need to be thinking about your life after employment or your business in the next couple of years. So if you want us to chat, if you want us to talk about this, please get in touch with us at SIL Uganda on number 0772-443-085, or check our website www.siluganda.com, or on all the social media handles. You can hook me up or Facebook, that is Jinpo Olowo, on Instagram, Jinpo Olowo, and on Twitter and LinkedIn. Then we can chat a way forward with you. We can help you, we can coach you, we can walk with you this journey of financial freedom. Thank you.
It's the CEO Bench. My name is Adrian Kamoga, and this is House of Talent Television, where we discussed everything about leadership, change management, and transformation. You cannot run an organization when you do not have leadership abilities to be able to lead people from one end to the next. And neither can you be able to be successful in business when your leadership abilities is challenged, when your level of effectiveness is not measurable to, to the expectations of the people that you're going to serve and the product that you bring into the market. But of course, on the program today, we are talking to the CEO, the young man who left campus and started out not with the mindset that I need to get a job and work, but a mindset of I need to be an entrepreneur. And it's quite an interesting journey because looking at him from the ICT world, studying computer science at Makerere University or at the university and coming out of that and going into entrepreneurship very shortly after that is quite an amazing journey. Adrian, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the company that you now own today. We're talking about change management, and we've understood how you've been able to manage change from one end to the next. But I want to know from this perspective, let's talk about the organization. So you have now these guys and they're working with you.
Yeah.
And in 2015, you turn around the situation to say, I don't want the normal, internet, computer science service to the next. What we want to know from you is, what problems were you trying to solve in the market? A lot of us start businesses and we never start business by, first of all, studying and understanding the need in the market, coming with a solution that will fix that problem in the market. Most times we just start businesses and we start running. We don't understand it. What informed your decision to come up with this kind of solution to the ICT world? What were you looking forward to solve as a problem?
Well, like I've explained, that initially the company that I used to work for, we used to do a lot of infrastructure projects, building data centers, building networks, providing the endpoint devices to the customers, setting up an IT environment so that you're ready to go to work. That is infrastructure. Of course, it encompasses a lot of things, the software that it needed to work, the hardware that you needed to work, and of course, all the technologies combined. So how do I discover a niche in cybersecurity? Of course, in my journey, I always knew that information is key. Information is key. So I used to, early in 2014, I used to travel a lot. I used to travel to South Africa, travel to Europe, Middle East, trying to understand this thing of technology. We know what we study in school is not what is actually applied in the field. For example, if you go and study video production, you could get the theory. But then when you go to the field, actually, now you get to understand the dynamics. So I was able to, in my travels, I was able to identify that the niche of security is the next thing. That was now my transformation. Because I remember when I went to South Africa for a training on storage with Huawei. Of course, I knew South Africa was quite ahead of us in terms of technology. And back here in Uganda, people used to understand cybersecurity as probably someone should have antivirus. And actually, the key selling point, and I remember I launched my firewall brand, which is currently Sophos in Uganda. I launched it back in it was rebranding from Cyberom to Cyberom NG series. So I launched it in partnership with the Minister of ICT in Uganda. And there was a lot of excitement everywhere, People, they said, this thing is going to secure our internet. And, I love the description of the whole thing. From the ministry perspective, everyone was excited. The media was excited. I actually failed to look into all the cameras because I had about probably 100 cameras around me, people asking me questions about how this device is going to work, how is it going to secure the traffic. Of course, they couldn't even understand what they were asking. But I was able to identify that the niche of cybersecurity was the next thing. Yes, the infrastructure was already there. People had bought the gadgets. People had built data centers. The sharing of data from server to endpoints was of course there. Now, of course, we have the cloud. We've transformed from on-premise solutions now to cloud, whereby now people want to access whatever they want to access securely from everywhere. And the key thing, cloud technology cannot survive if cybersecurity is not there.
Wow.
Because now we take whatever you had in possession. You know, you can imagine you have your phone and your photos sit on your phone. Now we're taking away the photos to probably a private server somewhere. So, of course, the first thing you're going to think about is, are my items actually secure? That is the key thing.
Yes.
So, of course, I was able to understand that cybersecurity was the niche. I now started doing a lot of knowledge search, training, individual training on cybersecurity, and being able to understand now how, or whatever you're going to ask me about the layers, the different layers of cybersecurity. If you close the door, where do you keep the key? If you close the door, have you closed the window as well? Because you could think that you're secure, but the window is open. And probably you close the door, but you don't tell your kids that when I come in the night, probably this is how I'll call your name. And probably if they don't know that, and you come and you knock and you say, hello, Eddie, and then they'll say, okay, that's Daddy. They'll come and open. So what is the use of the key or the burglar that you've put on the door? So that is now the beauty of cybersecurity.
Wow. I hope you're enjoying this interview as much as I am enjoying. I think that Adrian has really got his head cut out and his work cut out on this matter of cybersecurity. He speaks very profoundly about it. I want to take a moment just to read a couple of your questions coming from people, and we want to hear from you all across the world. We want to see people here in Denmark. Thank you very much, Adrian Kamoga, for the CEO bench. I'm a technology person studying cybersecurity. I'm mastered in cybersecurity. I live and work in Denmark. This guy is amazing. This particular topic is not quite very much understood all across the world. Ugandans are quite, the Africa security is not an issue, but if they come to Europe, they will understand how security is such an issue in Europe. And somebody here, Stanley, says, I'm watching from the industrial area. Thank you very much, Stanley, right there. And Joseph Magula says, remember to get Nita Sat as well. Well done, talking to you, Adrian. And Steven is saying that worth hearing, amazing stuff. Thank you very much, guys. And I see here from Berry Jack saying it's amazing. David is watching, War, amazing. And I've seen Grace here and all of these guys, Morinda Normand. And all of you guys say Dubai is watching, son. So thank you very much, Mr. Mulindwa, all the way in Dubai, Normand in Dubai right there. And I want to dive to my friends in Australia. Eddie Okila, thank you very much for the CEO bench. I live and work in Australia. I always wait for this program to come. I think the young man is an amazing person. I don't know whether I was with him in school. He looks familiar. He's not aware. But this is Dennis all the way in Australia, and says that I like what he's saying, securing our data, but I have a question for him along the way as you interview him. Can you please ask him how safe is our data, particularly from the African perspective, now that the African continent is not very much internet, and tech savvy? Not everyone is coming up with solutions, so that question is coming for you. You're probably going to answer that. And I have another one saying here, Philip, all the way in London. Philip, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Says early morning, 2 hours behind, enjoying the program. I'm an IT guy. I work in the train business here and the train section and the transport sector here. What he's saying is very important, because if the security is not very well, somebody can easily hack the system here and the transport system will shut down. The power system will shut down. So it's not something that Ugandans understand, but here everything is about cybersecurity, and it's a lot So I am a well-paid person in the sector.
Wow.
This is a Ugandan working in London.
Okay.
We'll read one more. Coming from the US says, thank you very much, Adrian Kamoga. Anyone who has watched the movie of cybersecurity will understand what that gentleman is talking about. I love particularly that you are able to bring such people onto the program. Adrian is talking things that Ugandan government needs to pay attention to, and every corporate company needs to pay attention to, because the next big thing is going to be about cybersecurity, and any enterprise that does not have security for its staff are going to have a problem. I like it that Adrian breaks down, Mr. Kamoga is breaking down to the layman language, like the border. The things is that talk about the windows, the doors not closed, the keys safe, is an amazing stuff to hear. I'm glad that Uganda is beginning to get there. Thank you very much for the program. I hope we can have more CEO bench people coming who can speak more technical things like this. Thank you very much. We're definitely going to do that. All right, guys. Our time is running fast, but we need to have a discussion with Adrian right here. Adrian.
Yeah.
I think you can see a lot of people are beginning to, think through this entire, cybersecurity discussion. Let's dive into it a little bit. We don't quite understand a lot of things about your field.
Yeah.
And from the border stage, we don't understand. To the corporation, people don't understand. And also, government sometimes don't understand very much the importance of some of this. So people in government don't understand. Maybe a sector understand, but not everyone does. So I want to take you straight to this question. What is the role of cybersecurity as an expert to, let's say, an individual business, a corporation business? What is the role?
Well, cybersecurity is more focused on information. You see, Eddie, when you're running your business here, one of your key, probably one of your biggest asset is information.
Yeah.
Who do you deal with? How do you transact? How do you conduct the business? Probably that, we are talking about digitization of everything. We are moving into the digital world. Yeah. So cybersecurity is more about, of course, cyber is the cyberspace. Yeah. And then the security, of course, like you have a man guard on your door, yeah, or a guy who monitors your alarms here. Yeah. That is now physical security. Yeah. But now we are talking about intelligent security, whereby systems are put in place, policies are put in place to make sure that information that is vital to organizations, be it government. You've had a couple of cases whereby on social media, whereby we see that Parliament has been hacked. They're my customers. Yes. They've been hacked. Yes. And probably certain documents have been publicized, yes, or the government website has been put down. Yeah. Of course, security, there are a lot of things that if someone compromises your security, yeah, if someone gets to understand that probably if Ed is dealing with Adrian, the transaction that happens probably is 1 million shillings or 5 million shillings, that's vital information. Yeah. If it's put out there, probably someone would say, oh, Eddie was overcharging us, or Eddie is undercharging us, So that information is key. Now, the information initially, of course, used to sit on the gadgets. Yeah. Yeah? On the gadgets, whereby you have your PC, which you secure very hard. That's why the issues we had initially was about viruses. Yeah. Yeah. Because they understood, the guys who do the viruses understood that your data sits on your computer. Correct. So if I compromise it, yeah, and you're not able to access it, yeah, then I've attained that was the initial security. Yeah. Now we've moved from now having data sitting on devices to we transform to a server-based kind of solution, whereby if we're in an organization like here, our data is seated on one PC, and because machines are interconnected through physical or wirelessly to that central machine, which is a server, yeah, we're able to communicate. But now remember, the security there was not really, maybe someone would physically break in, yeah, yeah, and probably steal the server, yeah, or the virus will probably encrypt, yeah, or disorganize the files that you have seated on the PC. Now, we've moved from there. We transformed now from that management to be able to have AD work from home and be able to access the server. I remember you talked about the VPN connection, the virtual private networks, whereby I would guarantee AD that wherever he is able to securely access the server here, which is seated in his office, and able to transfer the files or share or edit. If it's a document, if it's a pipeline document you are editing, you need to make sure that that connection is secure.
Yeah. Adrian, nicely spoken about that. At least you give an understanding. Now, there is this, VPN was never VPN known as it is now in Uganda and in most African countries. We even didn't know it does exist until the elections in Africa started, until the Arab Spring started, until the internet started to have its own, you know, being blocked by different governments to manage so many other things. And then VPN became VPN. And now everybody knows VPN. A border man knows VPN. A taxi driver knows VPN. Okada rider in Nigeria knows VPN. You know, the tuk-tuk in Tanzania knows VPN.
Yeah.
What is VPN in a nutshell? What is VPN and how did it become very popular here?
Well, I think VPN has been, personally I've been working with VPN since 2014 because in the firewall, the Sophos, the Cyberoom, by then that we launched, of course, we had a component whereby the companies had what we call roaming users, the users that want to sit in the office, or it's a branch office and they're about 2, 3, 4 guys, but they would want to privately connect back to the head office so that they can be able to access information at the office remotely. So we used to configure what we used to call a VPN tunnel for those customers, whereby we have a client software that sits on their PCs now that encrypts whatever they're doing and transmit it securely to the head office. So the firewall at the head office will be able to decrypt that and translate that those requests and be able to forward them to wherever they were supposed to go. So how VPN came into Uganda, of course, the popularity came on the Facebook, on the social media blocking by the government for security reasons. So what happens is, of course, some people around the world, of course, understood the VPN business and they're able to provide applications which sit on your device. So you're able to disguise because it's a virtual private network. So it's like no one can understand, I virtually connect to you, and he will not know, no one will know actually what we are discussing, It's like a silent kind of communication. It's not loud. If it's loud, because the government will go and say, this particular DNS or this particular website is going to be blocked. So definitely they will just say, this IP address for Facebook or this particular name for Facebook has been blocked. So now, because the communication that is happening between the VPN client on your phone and the server, probably in the US, I used to see on Facebook people say, oh, I'm enjoying Denmark, I'm enjoying Australia, it feels good here. So your information, the information between whatever you're doing, you're browsing on your device is encrypted and then securely transmitted to the other server. So the other server, the software on the other end now translates whatever you are communicating and then routes it back to. So that's why you find that Facebook will see that a lot of traffic, there's no traffic in Uganda for Facebook, but their traffic is now increasing in probably US, Europe, because we are pushing all the traffic. Like the way you're broadcasting. You're doing all your traffic, you're broadcasting from the US. So here it's not known that actually this activity is taking place. But then from the other server is when you can know that now actually, because then it becomes open traffic. That's how now VPN issues came in, because people knew the government had blocked the websites. So now they don't know actually that AD is transmitting or whatever, or someone who uses a VPN is actually transmitting Facebook traffic.
How secure is this thing, VPN we're talking about? How secure is VPN, Adrian? We're talking about it here. Like any other good thing, there's been a lot of fear that we could be in more danger that our data is actually being taken away because, I mean, it's virtual private network. The guy who's running it is probably in Europe or in Australia or in Germany, he's anywhere in the world. What happened to my data when I'm very busy enjoying VPN here and thinking that I've safely landed the other side, I've navigated the path, I'm on social media network and platforms, but yet my data may not be safe. You're talking about cybersecurity as an expert.
Well, when it comes to security of your data,
on VPN particularly.
As in, it's like you're communicating with someone, you're communicating through someone that you don't know.
Yes.
You're communicating through me. You have an idea you want to communicate to the public, but you don't want to do it by yourself. You want me to do it for you. So if you don't trust me, is your data safe? Maybe you answer yourself.
Yes.
Yeah?
I don't know whether my data is safe, yes.
It depends on the trust you have with the VPN solution provider. Because definitely if they have their agent, which picks the information that you want to broadcast from your browser or from your applications on your phone, definitely, you know, when we're installing applications on our phones, they'll ask you, do you want me to have access to your contact list? Because you'd wonder, how do these guys actually make money?
Yes, that's another question.
Yeah. Because I have access to your phone numbers and your contact list, I can sell that information. I have access to your device. I'm seated in your house. I know where your bedroom is. I know where your bathroom is. I know where your kitchen is. So I can use that information for my own. But as I'm also doing your job.
Yes.
That's why we always...
So it's really not free.
It's not free.
Yeah,
it's not free because these VPN guys, of course, they have a lot of access to data. And data is gold.
Yeah.
You know, if for example, Truecaller wants data about probably contacts for people, they could go to a VPN guy and tell him, okay, we need, in Uganda, we need to know all this number belongs to this one, this number belongs to this one, so that we can use that information, load it into our server, and make our application work better. You will not know. But they will sell the information at millions of dollars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And this is where you guys come in as cybersecurity to basically try and say, we put a system in place that allow us to be able to navigate some of these things. Exactly. Wow.
A secure VPN would be a privately owned VPN. Like the ones we've been setting up in a couple of organizations, whereby, of course, you have your firewall, which you know actually the traffic that is going through. You have visibility, what is going on. You manage the VPN client. The client, that is the software that sits on your device. It could be on your laptop. It could be on your device, your handheld device.
Wow.
Yeah.
I see so many messages, over 500 messages on the messenger. Everyone is wondering whether they're safe now. The CEO Bench is going to take a break, and when we come back, we're coming back in the last part of the show with Adrian Kamoga, who is the CEO and the founder and the CEO of Enterprise, Standard ICT Enterprise Solution in Uganda. The company that provides security, cybersecurity services in Kampala and across East Africa. Is on the CEO Bench to tell us if we're safe or not, but also nominated to come onto the CEO Bench as a young man who is doing great things. Stay right there. We're going to take a coffee break, and when we come back, the CEO Bench will dig deeper into the cybersecurity. Are we safe? What do you need to do to set what, where, and how is the service of his company actually transforming lives now that he has transformed his life, has been able to manage change? You'll pick a thing or two from there until you are able to do yours. Of course, the CEO Bench talks to people who are up on the ladder, going on top, reach top, coming down. What should we do? How should we go about it? If you are looking forward to that, this is the place for you. Be right back after the break.
People at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They've moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call I never call it Facebook. It's Bookface. Why are you on Bookface? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
Me, I keep saying I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
And I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and in the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Remember Prince?
Yes.
Prince.
Welcome back from that break. Adrian Kamoga in the studio. This is the CEO Bench live on House of Talent Television. You can catch this on your Facebook and all our social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and of course Twitter. You will also be able to catch this on our website, House of Talent Uganda.com, right there, and you'll be amazed what you can do with yourself and the information you can get from there. The CEO Bench is talking to the CEO and the founder of the Standard ICT and Enterprise Solution Uganda, Adrian Kamoga. Adrian, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Our time is fast spent. I see a lot of requests here to bring you back to the show to continue talking about these things. We'll probably have a part 2 of this interview at some point. But Adrian, I want to go straight to this whole thing about what do you understand by risk, vulnerability, and threats in a network? A lot of times our information is stolen, and you've just talked very nicely about the VPN and now securities, and you said that you advise organizations to probably just have their own, because where their information is going, whoever is sitting is selling it. We didn't even know that. We're busy enjoying, not knowing the other person is making a killing out of us.
So actually on Monday, sorry, on Tuesday next week, I have a conference I'm organizing with one of my partners from UK. And we are teaching our customers on how to manage IoT. You know, now vulnerabilities means, of course, risk. Everyone understands risk. Yeah. You know, the probability that probably something would go wrong. Yeah. Yeah. Now the vulnerabilities are the weaknesses. The weaknesses. Now the weaknesses within an organization. Like I said previously, that you've closed your door, but your window is open. That's a vulnerability. You might think the thief is going to pass through the door. Probably they'll pass through the window. Yeah. You could, I had an interesting training in Nairobi, and one guy said, I lock my door like we've locked the door, but then we keep the keys inside there. We're doing something on HSM. And I realized that actually you are supposed to close the door and keep the keys in a secure lock, which also has another key. You know, so that means vulnerabilities in a network. A network is a communication of devices within an organization. Yeah. So vulnerabilities are many, many. Actually, we have solutions that are specifically looking at vulnerabilities within a network. It could be an update, a security update in your Windows machine. We always have pop-ups on our devices that say, oh, update your Windows, latest updates. And you don't want to be disturbed, you don't want to restart your machine, you're being so busy. But between that gap that you've not actually updated your latest security settings to what Microsoft has released, could be a vulnerability. You know, now we have Internet of Things. You know, bring your own device in an organization. Eddie comes from his home. He carries he has antivirus on his device, or his computer. Of course, there's a firewall that secures communication to the internet world. And of course, like we say, there are different layers of security within a network. Yeah. So, but you bring your device, your phone in an organization, it doesn't have an antivirus, but then you want to be on Facebook. Definitely you want to access the corporate network, yeah. You know? And now we have also, now that becomes a vulnerability, because a hacker will go through your phone and be able now to access the internal network of the organization, because your phone has not been secured and it has access to the network. So someone uses your device to connect now to the corporate network. We have Internet of Things, whereby now we could have smart doors. Our printers are smart. They could tell you on your email that your toner is out. We have smart lights, smart curtains. So when someone says smart, that means that device is actually intelligent in a certain way. So how to be intelligent? Definitely it has to be connected, interconnected within the network. Yeah. So how can you load a security software in a door? These are devices that come with very small memories with just for a particular functionality. So now we've grown into, of course, before it was bring your own device, like last year. Security now was at a level of, now how do you manage bring your own device in an organization, whereby Eddie was able to bring his laptop and work within our organization. Now we have Internet of Things. Now we have devices connecting to the internet. You have your door and it's connecting to the internet. You can imagine. So someone can be able to use the door and now connect to your internal network, yeah. Because your door is connecting to the external world. Yeah. So vulnerabilities are so many. I can only mention but a few.
Wow.
Within an organization. Even actually employees have vulnerabilities. Yeah. And we have, last year we launched a product called, it's about giving information to now staff training, giving them security trainings. Yeah. Because someone sends you a phishing email on your email, so you should be able to identify that probably this email is CEO fraud. Yeah. Eddie is the CEO. They're telling Eddie, I have actually a company that lost almost $500,000. They rushed to me and they said, oh, we have lost, the accountant transferred money to a wrong, because the accountant was sent an email and was told that, oh, we've changed our account number, everything looks genuine, the domain, the email address, of course, they masquerade. The email address looks like it's coming from the other organization that genuinely actually supplies the machines. Yes. Now it comes and they target the accountant, the financial controller, yeah. And they tell him, oh, we've changed the account details, please find attached new account details. He never had the information to verify. He could have picked a phone call and called the other guys and said, oh, I've received an email from you and saying that you've changed your account details.
Is this true?
He just went through and transferred the money. It's true. It happens. It happened. So when they told us to come in and try to solve them, I told them, well, the money was already transferred. We cannot bring it back. So we can only educate the guys on how to identify such cases in the future. Wow. Yeah. Wow. So that is also a vulnerability. People are also vulnerabilities within an organization. Wow. Yeah.
Well, we're talking to Adrian Kamoga. If you're watching the show as a CEO Bench, this particular show is talking to a tech founder and CEO of a tech company that is providing cybersecurity services and products to solve, problems in the market. You've just heard about that. 500 million is quite a lot of money for an organization to lose. It's
$500,000.
$500,000. Yeah. $500,000.
Yes,
wow,
they were purchasing machines for agriculture. Wow. The tractors.
And that's it. The organization may not be able to recover from that because, there was a problem. Yes. Yeah. Adrian, as we wind up the show, we want to just, talk to you about this, how can I identify the theft and be prevented, given this that you've talked about? Yeah. What is, in a nutshell, how can we do this as we wind up the show? Because I know so many people are asking the same question.
Well, what we've been advocating of recent within organization is information, knowing if I'm doing a VPN connection I need to understand actually, how does the VPN connection work?
Yeah.
Then I'm able to now know whether if I'm doing my online banking, I will turn on my VPN.
Yeah.
Because when I turn on my VPN, if the other guy wants to know my username and password for my banking, that's why I think some banks have tried to block the applications. If you have your VPN turned on your device and you want to do a transfer, it will not work. It will be blocked because they don't understand the transaction. They will block it. Yeah. If they see any traffic going to the website and they don't understand it, they'll block it. So, because if the guy has a client on your device, they have access to your browsing history. Yeah. They have access to your browsing content, you know? So they can be able to get your username and password. So you need to know, people need to be more vigilant when it comes to information. You need to ask questions. People need to ask questions. You know, within an organization, even if someone is bringing a solution and they want to enroll it, as an individual, you need to ask questions. Yeah. But then we also want to go into training. Organizations need to train. Okay, already we have done a couple of customers whereby we have solutions that we give classes, automatic classes. People are able to enroll, study, understand this cybersecurity thing. How can I be hacked? And what does hacking mean? How do I differentiate emails that are actually phishing from genuine emails? Yeah. You know, they give that bit of, because this education is not given in schools. You don't teach an accountant on cybersecurity because that's not their business. But actually an accountant would be an vulnerability within an organization and thousands of dollars would be stolen. Yeah. You know, so you need to ask questions, you need to educate yourself. Don't just go into a space that you don't understand. You know, you say, oh, now I don't want to keep my data on my device. I want to go to cloud. You know, I used to ask my customers that ask Microsoft, you're shifting your emails from your old email server, which sits in your office. Now Microsoft saying, oh, now we want to own your emails. We want you to do Office 365. You should ask questions. And when you ask questions, then they'll give you the level of security that they provide. Because now you might need another vendor to come in and actually secure your traffic to Microsoft. Because Microsoft's focus is availability, making sure your email is delivered to the recipient. You know, and they give you some bit of basic security. But now if you become a target, becomes the problem. Yeah. If someone says, I want Eddie, I want to know who he communicates to, which kind of information, which people he loves more, because they will go for them. You know? That is now when they will know, they will say, okay, we want to understand, I want to understand the level of in detail, you know, in detail. Don't just go for a space you don't understand. That is now the vigilancy that I want people to get into, but people need to read. Yeah. Cyber security information is all over the internet. We're in the cyber world whereby you just go on Google and say, okay, how can I secure my device? And someone say, okay, you should have antivirus on your device. You should have, don't use a VPN which is open. I don't use an open VPN on my device. I have an antivirus on my device and I pay for the VPN because I know I can fully trust the vendor who's manning my VPN. Yeah. Their business is not, it's security, it's not theft. But don't hand over your data to someone you don't understand.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
The CEO Bench is coming to a close today, and it's been an amazing interview with Mr. Kamoga right here. And you need to check them out and probably secure your company with them, secure your home or your personal data with them. Mr. Kamoga, let's talk about, in a quick, what is the black hat and what is the white hat and the gray hat hackers? We've had this thing before. I mean, if I'm starting a small company and I don't know what these things really mean, it can be a problem for me. If you can wind up with that and then also tell us, you know, how often should we be able to perform this patch management that we're talking about as we talk about cybersecurity? Yes, in helping us transform from, you know, where we are and where you want us to be. We're talking about now the transformational, you know, leadership approach to things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to hacking, of course, that's a whole topic we can discuss for the whole day. One of the services we provide as Standard ICT is penetration testing and vulnerability assessment. Of course, in levels of security, we have what we call governance and compliance, whereby probably Bank of Uganda would say, you're a bank, you host people's information, so you need to run an audit, a penetration audit. Actually in Uganda it's done twice. Every bank has to do twice a year. In Kenya it's done once, and other countries, of course every country has its own policy. So now when it comes to penetration testing, we actually become the thieves. Because we want to go on the other side and know if someone wants to steal information from this bank, how do they do it? So we have, of course, we have tools, we have softwares that we use to do actually the assessment, and then we present you a report. So now it comes to gray, white. Of course, the white, for us we are white. We don't do the bad guy stuff. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And then the bad guys on the dark side. Okay. Yes, they come to steal. The dark web. Yes, they come to steal. For us, we come to identify and advise you that, when all the guys are left the office, there's a port you leave open and you don't supposed to leave it open. Okay, let me call it a window. Yeah. There's a window in your server room or in your office that you always leave open. So guys can actually know that no one is looking, and now they can come in. So then we tell you, okay, now what you need to do is to always, when you're leaving, close this door. Yeah, so we do that assessment, and then we give you a thorough report. Wow. Yeah. And that said, looking at your organization. So on the dark web, dark web is where the bad guys are. Okay. Guys who are doing, of course, if someone steals your information, they will not sell it on the open web. They'll go where the bad guys are. So actually, guys, on the dark web, you need a membership. They have specific browsers that they use to access the dark web, and you need to be known. Yeah? And you need to be invisible, because you're going to be selling narcotics, guns, what? Actually, CIA is it CIA or in the US? They actually use the dark web to catch the bad guys. They become the members in the dark web. Okay. You know, that's how they were able to get some guys who was, because now we are going into cryptocurrency. Yeah. Whereby now I can transact with you. No one will know that I'm transacting with you because I'm going to use the digital currency. I send to you direct because they're removing the third party, because always the government looks, to do the controls. Yeah. But now someone can be able to transfer some money and purchase something using digital currency. We'll get into that space maybe at a later stage. Wow. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Adrian, for coming to the program today. We want to just wind up with a last question going forward. You said patching, vulnerabilities. Yes. How do we perform patch management? Yes. Patch management is, of course, like when it comes to, I don't do software development. That's not my niche. Yeah. No worries, guys. When it comes to campus, they say, to be an IT guy, you have to be a software developer. Me, I'm an expert in my niche. Yeah. I am an expert in partnerships. I do partnership business strictly. So when it comes to patch management is that, of course, you could be running a certain software within your organization. Yeah. So the developer definitely, we have softwares that do vulnerability scans. Yeah. So it could be an independent audit that we did an independent audit and we said, okay, your programmer who's doing your core banking solution needs to patch up these things. So now patch management is now when the provider of that software has sent an update. Yeah. Like probably Microsoft has sent an update. Yeah. So patch management would know that this update has come. It downloads, the software downloads it into probably a certain section within your organization, yeah. And then is able to send now automatically to those devices that need to be patched. That's patch management. Wow. Yeah. Well, Adrian, thank you very much. And finally, we have come to the end of this show today. Yeah, we want to say thank you very much. And from change management, leadership, change management, and transformation, how do you see your organization turning around lives
in either individual lives and then corporation lives, and where do we see the standard ICT solution in the next, 10, 15, 20 years? What legacy would you like to leave behind?
I would definitely, as a businessman, I would want to leave a very good food stamp.
Yes.
I remember in 2015, I launched an endpoint security solution, and I partnered with guys from Romania, and we launched it. As of now, we've grown the numbers from just $1,000 to almost $500,000. That is the money that is going to the vendor.
Okay.
So I would want to, of course, introduce solutions for different problems that, of course, are going to be here. Like the products I've done, I've introduced in Uganda. They are there. Even if I'm not there, they're going to be there for life.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what leadership abilities or development have you put in place to see that these people are developing and they can move forward? Can this organization run beyond you? Can your son or your daughter take over?
Yeah. Like you've seen, I think you've visited us sometime, you've seen that we have structures. Yeah, we have structures, and we've put in place who does what, which section does this. And of course that has evolution. That in case a head of sales goes, we can be able to hire another head of sales, and probably the sales of the company still grow. And of course, if I retire as a CEO, I could be able to train someone. You know, I should have put in place systems that can be able to, that can be taken over by another person.
Wow.
Yeah, not me. Actually, I always travel over the world, and my business still goes on. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
And finally, where do you see the future of the ICT in Uganda or in Africa as a continent? Are we ready for it? Where the world is going? Are we ready? And if not, what kind of infrastructure do we need to put in place? You keep talking about infrastructure.
Well, you see, I think there's been a lot of growth and transformation. I appreciate the work National IT Authority is doing, and also, of course, they come up with policies that people are supposed to comply with. You know, when it comes to IT, with cyber security, like I said, we have a layer of compliance and governance, whereby government will come up with policies and say, okay, we need you, each and every person should have at least a basic thing, which is antivirus on their devices. Because at the national level, they have what we call cyber threat intelligence, whereby I think UCC has a solution. Because I remember I was involved in that tender for procurement of a cyber threat intelligence solution, whereby we could be able to identify this is the new attack, it's coming from Russia, it's attacking our bank here, then they could be able to block that traffic at a national level.
Okay.
Well, the government is doing something. But then also, as individuals, like I said, we need to also be vigilant. Because the government will not be able to understand which new VPN client has come up, or which new VPN solution has come up, probably because they will not know. But for you, go ahead and download it and install it on your device. And then you trust transacting. You actually go to, then you say, oh, I've stolen money from my account. Oh, my information was stolen. Oh, I see nudes on social media. People steal nudes from people's devices, and actually they ask for a pay. Someone says, if you don't give me $100,000, I'm going to publish your nonsense on the cyberspace. You know, so people need to be vigilant. But of course, the government is also doing something.
Okay.
The guys we work with, the enterprise space, of course, because they hire the intelligence guys, the guys who have done now specifically cybersecurity, now know which measures that they need to implement within organizations. Of course, it also depends on the budget they have available. But of course, I think for the time I've been in the cyberspace in Uganda, for the last couple of years, I would say, because right now, on average, almost every corporate organization, at least they have an antivirus solution. They have they have a firewall. At least they can understand how a firewall works.
Yeah.
Which that's good. It's a good level.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Adrian. And to all of you guys watching the show from all across the world, we would like to say thank you. I would like to just sample some of your questions here, if there are any. Mulunji Sarah said, "Wow, an amazing watching this." And of course, Murinda, all the way in Dubai. Murinda, thank you very much. I have Grace NL will say, "These points are so refreshing. We are proud of you, Adrian, for keeping your heads up." And of course, Matovo Lawrence says, "An amazing discussion right there." And he says, "I'm very proud of you, Adrian." And I see my friends from the outside countries in the US, Anthony, thank you very much, says, "This has been an amazing show. I stayed up late to watch this program and I think I love it. I wish Uganda could have more of this kind of young people coming and having a very fantastic discussion like this." And says that gentleman breaks the ICT down to a border level. That is a good thing. Most ICT fellows are always talking top things and they forget about that. Some of the threats that he talked about and risk are usually your border rider, because whenever your border man is carrying you, you are busy releasing information to them. Thank you very much, Dan, all the way in the US. And today we have my brother from another mother, Moses in Sweden, says, "I stayed up to watch the show." Adrian, thank you very much. I think I was in Matovo in St. Henry's Matovo with that gentleman. He's been always an amazing guy. Thank you very much. Shout out to him. And you've got a lot of people watching the show. So all of you guys, we want to say thank you very much. The program's come to an end. Adrian, what's your last word to the people who nominated you to come into this program? If you look into that camera, what would you say to them?
I would say thank you for trusting me. Of course, definitely I will thank my customers, people who have entrusted their security in our hands. Well, every time I walk into my customer's office and I say, okay, now this is the new thing that we have, I always have a positive response from my customers. Either we don't have a budget now, but let's provision for it. And they will definitely always provision for it. I thank my customers. Thank you for supporting Standard ICT. Please always look out to us in case of any solutions that you need. But I also thank the entire audience. Thank you for watching me. And I hope to be back here maybe next time so that we can try and break whatever we've discussed into more detail so that people can be able to understand.
Wow.
Yes, I thank you, Eddie, for hosting me. And I look forward to more discussions with your audience.
Well, thank you very much. And to us here, we want to say thank you to all of you. Thank you, Adrian, and thank you, everybody, for being a part of the CEO Bench Growing Bigger and Better. The CEO Bench strictly operates with votes. Vote for whoever you want to see on the CEO Bench. The highest person with the vote will come on the show. And next week, we dive into bringing you a man who came into the space of, of running hotels. He's had the highest votes. Is the general manager of Sheraton Kampala and of course the Apollo hotels all across the East Africa. He will be on the show here, and of course we're going to have a very fantastic discussion. It's got over 150 votes coming through, so you too can nominate somebody you want to see on the CEO Bench, and our job is to bring that person on the bench. Until then, we want to say thank you, and to the crew and to the team here that makes these pictures look good, amazing, and all the mistakes and success and everything that we have on the show, we want to say thank you to them. To everybody, shout out to all of you guys, and please share that link far and wide to your friends, and of course, make sure everybody is secure and don't be left out in the dark web. Be in the white web so that you can be part of the solution. Until then, we're saying shout out to you and goodbye.
people at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They've moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call, I never call it Facebook, it's Bookface. Why are you on Bookface? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
Me, I keep saying, I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and in the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Yeah, remember Prince?
Yes.
Prince.
Hello and welcome to the Coffee Break on House of Talent Television. My name is Adrian Kamoga. I know it's been a whole week since we've been here, but we're here now. So grab your cup of coffee, grab your book, grab your pen for those who like to take notes. And we're going to have a very great show today. Remember, you can always catch us on our social media handles, on Twitter, on our Facebook, and on our YouTube. You can also catch us on our website at houseoftalentug.com. Now, today in the house, we have a man who has been here before, and due to public demand, he's back again. You know, he's a very wise barrister. He has been around the coffee game for a while. He has been into some research. He has been into barista competitions, and he'll be telling us, you know, more about that. And the best thing about him is that he's a very down-to-earth person. He's a very humble guy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me, Chiganda Ibrahim, back to the Coffee Break. Ibra.
Yes, please.
How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm okay. It's very good to have you back.
I'm very, very happy.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
What have you been up to, basically, you know?
I have been working on a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. On station, some small field work.
Okay.
Trying to design some few projects for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are these things like top secret? You can't let us know. You just you want us to wait. You know,
yeah,
till
you
it
have
comes
to
out.
wait until the right time.
Yeah.
And we are really cooking something new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I really, personally, I can't wait to see what you have in store for us.
Yeah, sure.
Now, I know that you have an SCA certification. Yeah? So I wanted to ask, how does one get that certification? And after getting it, what does it mean to you as a barrister to have that certification?
Okay, the SCA certification, it was like a chance for me.
Yeah.
Like luck. So there was a group that so much into coffee. It's like a coffee platform.
Yeah.
And there was this link that was moving around. So like, let me try it and see. So I applied, and luckily enough I was called under a company, World Coffee Bar. So we had a trainer from Nairobi, one of the authorized SCA trainers. So we had to take up the course and get done. We did exams and I passed. Yeah, that's when I got the certification.
Yeah, so what kind of training do you guys do in this course, and was it different from the training that you already had before that?
No, it was almost the same, only that it was more of an advanced skill.
An advanced course, yeah.
So it was basing on sensory skill and green grading, of which you first acquire the basic quality control skills. Okay. Then you go ahead and advance.
Yeah. So you talked about, you know, someone coming in from out to basically take you guys through the course. Yeah. So don't we have also people in Uganda who can take us through the same course? Do we need to go outside to bring people in?
I think we have potential people.
Yeah.
Like qualified Q&R graders, if I'm to say. But I think this is an organization, the SCA, Specialty Coffee Association of America. So they have to send an authorized trainer within that kind of organization to come and train.
Yeah. So do you have any future goals of maybe also becoming a trainer with the same?
That's my goal. I want to be the first SCA trainer in Uganda.
Yeah. So what is it going to take for you to get to that level?
It's all about connections,
making
friends and reading, practicing. Yeah, that's all.
Well, I hope you made enough friends, you know.
Yeah, I've made a lot of friends.
To get to that spot. Yeah. You're now working at the Coffee Wild Bar, and how long has it been now?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah,
so before you got a job there, what were you doing in that period?
Before Wild Coffee Bar, I was doing it's like a support staff with the Uganda Coffee Development Authority.
Yeah.
So we would go and brew coffee to people like in different regions. I've been to Mbara, I've been to Kasese, I've been to Mubende, I've been to Kagadi, I've been to Jinja, I've been to Mbale. Yeah, so I've been helping out with some UCD officials to carry out the promotions and trainings.
Yeah. So now you get a new job at the Wild Coffee Bar. You know, how has it been for you? Transitioning from traveling all over the place to being at a station, in one place, you know, how's the experience been for you?
Well, it was a new experience for me because I was so much involved into traveling. Then I was like, okay, let me see what really happens at the station, because I believe at the station this is where you meet each and every person, like in one station. Yeah. So you talked about, you know, traveling all over Uganda. Which was, you know, your favorite destination? One that you can't forget. Pardon?
Yeah, your favorite destination. You said you've been to Mubende, you've been to Masaka, all these different places. So, in your experience, you know, which was the best place you ever went to?
Fort Portal.
Why was Fort Portal the best place? Among other things we can talk about, you know.
Fort Portal, it's a very cool place. Now it's like a city, it became a city, and it's growing at a very fast rate. It's more of a tourism city. Very nice food, cool environment. There's something.
I believe there's something you're missing out there. I thought you'd have said, you know, good environment. The ladies out there.
But by the time I was in Fort, I think 2 weeks back, I was in Fort. Actually, it was my first time to be in Fort Portal. So I had a limited time to to move around, but the time that I really had was really so amazing.
I can see it from your face. So you're planning to go back to Fort Portal on your own? Well, that's amazing. It's good to have you back on the show. We were talking yesterday, and you told me that you were into some coffee research. So what kind of research were you doing before, and where did you reach with it? Was it successful? Research, you can always fail, or it can be successful. So how was that research?
So I got to know, I got into coffee research when I was still at campus through the coffee club, Kamoga University Coffee Club. By then, I was struggling to look for a place for internship. Then my friend recommended me there, so I applied. So they welcomed me very, very well, and I was given this opportunity to get more knowledge about coffee growing, plant diseases, agronomy, a lot of stuff. So I went back for my second internship. That's when I think I was doing my research for campus. But luckily enough, we didn't complete the research. I had some challenges around there. So I had pressure from the university. I started it late, so it was more of experimental. You set an experiment, you give it more time, almost like 2 months, so that you can get valid results. and you're supposed to replicate it and get accuracy in the results. So I reached a point when I had pressure from my supervisor, I had pressure on my own station supervisor. So like, I need to graduate as soon as I can. So I had to find ways of getting done and graduate. But now, right now, I think I have a lot of time. Now I've come to realize that I need to get back to research.
I think for most baristas, you know, most of them just focus on, you know, working at the station, serving coffee, but no one really gets back into research, you know, because I believe that that is a very important part for anyone, for a barista, for a farmer, for anyone really involved in the coffee business. And I think it's something that we should really encourage people to do.
True.
You know, because you don't hear of people doing coffee research in Uganda.
Research is there. People are doing research.
Yeah, but it's on a very small scale.
Right now I think it's more of a government organization, like okay, it's owned by the government.
Yeah, from UCDA.
There's another, it's part of the NARO group. It's a National Coffee Research Institute. So it's the common known institute that handles coffee research and cocoa. So whatever research that comes around published.
It's from those guys. I was actually talking to one of the guys from NARO, Owen. Owen says that, you know, one day we should go and visit him in the field, you know, we'll get a better understanding of, you know, the whole coffee process. But you were talking about having challenges, you know, on campus, and you had to find ways, like, you know, all Ugandans do, you know, to finish. For the 2 years you've been working, what are some of those challenges that you have met as a barista?
As a barista? One, resources.
What kind of resources?
Like personal resources. Remember, being on station, it doesn't end there. Like, I'm going to stand on a station, do maybe cappuccinos or espressos. There's some added skill that you're supposed to have. You need to make research. I never had a phone by the time I joined World Coffee Bar. I never had a PC, never had equipment. But I had to find ways. I got my first phone, smartphone. So I had to research more how you can brew a perfect espresso. Also how you can come up with a very nice presentation during competitions. So by the time I joined WIDE, I was freshly from competing on the national level.
So is that the only challenge, or there were, you know, other
Another
challenges?
challenge that I had was time management. Remember, on session supposed to be there at a particular time, of which it was something new to me. Time and meeting different people of different characters, different behavior. So it was kind of challenging to me to cope up with them, but I managed.
I remember one of the baristas we had last week was saying, you know, time management is very important, because if you're supposed to be at the station by 9 and you're supposed to start work at 9, you know, then you get there at 9, yet you're supposed to already be working. It's going to be a bad day for you. The customers have come, you're, you know, doing stuff in a hurry, you're a bit stressful. So I believe, like you said, time management is a very important thing. And, you know, to baristas out there, keep time. You know, sometimes people want breakfast. You know, someone is going to work, he wants his coffee by 9 so that he can make it to the office, and you're starting at 9. So what are some of those things, you know, apart from the challenges? I believe that, you know, life gives us challenges, but there are also good sides to it, you know. What are some of those things that you've appreciated over, you know, the 2 years, over the time you were at campus doing this research, things you've appreciated about the process that you've been through with coffee?
One, my boss. My boss is very, very, very supportive.
Is that a Ugandan boss?
No, he's a Norwegian boss. Very, very, very supportive and very understanding. So he gives you room to improve and grow. Then another thing that I really got from station is meeting different people. Meet friends. I've made friends. I've made friends in, there's some Colombian guys that came at station. Greece guys, US, so I've met a lot of people.
I think that, you know, never in your mind that you believe that you want to meet all these classes of people. That's the good thing about, you know, working in the service industry. You basically get to meet a lot of people you never thought, you know, you were going to ever meet.
Exposed.
So now with this kind of exposure that you have, you know, to different kind of customers, to different work environments, you know, to traveling, you know, up and down the country, what is your dream you know, when it comes to coffee? You know, there are guys who want to open, you know, coffee houses. There are guys who want to get into research. What's your dream?
My dream is, one, to be a SCA trainer, authorized, and to also chase for Q&R. So I want to be Q&R certified. Then from there, I've seen very many people opening up coffee shops and coffee academies. Basically barista. So me, I want to change the whole game. Right now we are struggling to bring quality aspect on the board. So we can't produce much coffee but of low quality. So quality could be our next target in the next probably 2 years from now. So my dream is to, one, to have a quality control school. Because right now we have limited number of people that can analyze coffee. Then my other dream is to have an on-station lab, science lab on the farm. So where you can do small research, can do small analysis, probably soil, water, micronutrients, acidity, pH, temperature, so that when we are processing coffee, we can measure all the parameters on the farm rather than picking samples. You go to maybe Kawanda or you go to UNBS, you measure the breaks. So that's my dream.
So we only have UNBS and Kawanda this time, you know, to help us with that process.
They can help, but I think it's when most people approach them. That's what I believe. But if we construct a fully equipped state-of-the-art science laboratory on the farm, it's more easier.
So with that plan in mind, what are some of the steps that you're taking right now to make sure that you get there? Because it's one thing having a dream. It's another thing, you know, working towards that dream. So what are some of those steps that you are taking to get there?
One, getting done with a certification, both SCA and Q&R. So I believe within that process, you're able to meet different people that can support you in the other way around. Then can also liaise with the national bodies, the UCDA and National Coffee Research Institute.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break right now. But before we go for the break, when we come back, we'll be talking about how the different stakeholders in the coffee business can basically help to improve the business. We have with us here Ibrahim, who will be telling us this. Very wise guy, very down to earth. We'll be right back after this. This is the Coffee Break on House of Talent Television.
Working. But first of all, if you're passionate about what you're going to do, I believe in all work we do mistakes. So my first experience at work was when I reached at work. You know, you have to be confident when you're doing something. Even if it's wrong, in our industry you have to be confident. Once you're confident, you give support of it. So my first cup to make was for a customer, and I made a mistake on it because the waitress came and gave me a cappuccino single. I made it and gave it to her. Then she told me, no, the guest wanted a flower on it. I'm not make a flower. So I said, what I've given you is what is supposed to go. I cannot make another cup of coffee. Please take that to a customer. If he calls me, I'll explain why. So that's how I started. But to me, when you love what you're doing, even when you make mistakes, still you will support that mistake and it will go. So I have love for the coffee, for the industry. I have love for what I'm doing, and when I'm on the station, trust me, I don't want anyone to disturb me. Even if you are who, even if you are the boss, once I'm in my bar, it is my turn.
It's your area.
Wait for my shift to get done, then you can bring me a coffee.
Interesting. If you're watching us, this is House of Talent, the Coffee Break. We are having some fun with Isaac and Charles here. You know, Charles telling us about his first experience, and he was supposed to make a certain cup of coffee, which he did not do, but these are the different experiences that we have. So if you're a barista and it's your first day on the job, relax. You got this. Have some confidence. We have you here at the coffee break, and we're going to take a break right now. But when we return, we still have that part of we're going to brew a cup of coffee, which I believe is going to be very tasty. Okay. And we'll also be talking about how can we set up a successful coffee business, which I think very many people are trying to get into right now. So we'll take a break right now. This is the Coffee Break on House of Talent Television. Welcome back to the Coffee Break on House of Talent Television, and this is the only coffee show in the country. So if you're not here, you're basically missing out on everything. If you're a coffee farmer, if you're a barista, if you're a business owner, if you're just a consumer of coffee, or you just love anything about the coffee process, this is the show for you. Before we went for the break, we're talking to Ibra about his experience, where he is, where he started from, the different places he has visited in Uganda. And coming back to the show now, we're going to get into the time of where we talk about, the different strategies that the different people in the coffee business can help to improve the business. Basically, the baristas, the farmers, the owners, UCDA, NARO, everyone who's involved in this process. Why is coffee in Uganda still, at a very low state, yet we can actually boost it up? Well, Ibra, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Coffee in Uganda, it's very amazing that Uganda actually exports a lot of coffee.
Yeah, it exports more coffee and less is consumed.
Yes, less is consumed here. Okay, which means there is a gap or a loophole somewhere that we are not really taking the best of, we're not using. Yeah, and I believe that we always need to improve the coffee business. Okay, so there are different stakeholders, like I said. You have the farmers, you have the baristas, you have the roasters, you have the business owners, all these groups of people, right? And I believe that each one of them plays a very important role in what they're doing. Okay,
yeah, true.
So we're going to start from the basics. Okay, how can a farmer play their part, okay, to improve this coffee business, especially in Uganda?
In Uganda, right now, what I've realized, we have very many farmers, and more are still coming up in coffee farming. Yeah. And their major part that they should play is growing the coffee, taking care of it, then following all the rightful procedures to manage the garden, harvesting the most important thing, processing up to drying. Yes.
Well, the farmers in Uganda basically, local farmers. Yeah, some of them are our fathers and our grandfathers, and they haven't really, studied anything about coffee. Well, they basically got the information from their fathers and their grandfathers and say, what, this is what we do. They grow coffee just like they would grow maize or anything else, okay? They don't have all that information. So how can these farmers get information that will basically make their yield better and the type of coffee farming would actually grow? How can they get that information?
So this is one way actually I've realized, since we have now other participants in the coffee value chain, I'll talk about the government itself, because it's one body that's trying to encourage farmers to grow more coffee, because we have a target to hit. So I'll talk about the UCDA, which is the main body that oversees coffee operations in Uganda. So they have really tried so hard to provide enough services to the farmers, starting from how coffee should be planted, how coffee should be harvested, and how coffee should be processed, to how coffee should be dried. At least they have done their part. Now it's upon the farmers to put all the services into consideration so that you can have a very good quality cup.
So imagine I'm a farmer, okay? I have known that, this is the way we do things and there is no changing it. And let's say you're working in the UCDA, okay? And you have to come down and convince me like, what? You need to change, okay? Otherwise, we're not going to go anywhere. So as an official of UCDA, let's say, okay? How would you convince me, a local farmer, to change my ways so that I can be more valuable to this, coffee process?
Okay. Now, since we export more coffee and less is consumed, and remember, the coffee that we export is analyzed. So once it's bad coffee, it will have to be rejected or sent back. So now the thing starts back to the farm. So as me, an UCDA official, I'll come to you, show you how coffee should be handled. So coffee how should be planted. Let's say you have 1 acre. So instead of planting anyhowly, I'll advise you, you know what, let's do a spacing of maybe 10 feet by 10 or 8 by 8 so that you can have this coffee grow well, and in terms of yielding you have more, rather than having a very crowded plantation. To give you difficulties in managing, weeding, maybe pruning, you'll find hardships, even harvesting, you get, because it will be very, very overcrowded. So I'll advise you that if you have your coffee spaced, you have room for pruning, weeding, and even feeding the manure. Even harvesting itself, it's very, very easy for you. Then another thing, harvesting. When you harvest the whole coffee, maybe most farmers have been using stripping method. So I'll tell you that when you use stripping, you're actually damaging the plant. So the plant is more subjected to drying than giving you more berries in the nearby future. So I'd rather advise you to pick the only red ripe cherries, so that you can come back still tomorrow, get more coffee, rather than stripping all the green and unripe, immatures and everything. So that you won't come back tomorrow and get more coffee. Yes.
I think with such an understanding, someone can actually see their part that they're playing. Because I think that sometimes the farmers just grow to make ends meet, you know, they grow to make money, but sometimes no one really goes down to explain to them how important they are, because without the farmer, there is no coffee. The rest of everyone in that process basically, you know, wouldn't matter. So the farmers have done their part, you know, they have added value now. Now we move to the next guys. The middlemen, basically. They're those guys who move coffee from one place to the next. So what is the middleman's role, first of all, and also how would it bring value to this process?
Now the middlemen have also done their part, but in the long run, I think we no longer need their services. Yes. Why? We've come to realize that middlemen actually cheat farmers. So their role is to connect the farmer to maybe the first buyer, probably the exporter. So he will go down to the farmers, be like, how much do you sell your coffee? They sell maybe 8,000 per kg. Like, no, I'm giving you 5,000. Be like, okay, since I have kids to take to school, I need money, give me that 5,000 per kg. So he will buy all the coffee. Then he will go to the first buyer, probably the exporter or the processor. Be like, have this coffee, I'm selling it at 12,000. You get? So this processor or the exporter will be like, no, I'm giving you 11,000 per kg. Like, okay, cool, let me go with the money. So you can see the difference between 11 and 5,000. So there is a difference of 6,000 profit. That's very, very much.
More than 100%.
Yes. So we find that most of the profits at the farm level are retained by the what? By the middlemen. So less gets back to what? To the farmer. Yes.
So if we're eliminating these guys, okay, now how will the exporters get their coffee? How will the processors get their coffee? Should they go down by themselves, or there is something else we can do in that mix?
Actually, there's something that I've realized. Most exporters have started working together with farmers. They go straight to the farmers, they get a certain amount of coffee and they process it. So they pay them still enough money, but in the wrong one, there's something lacking between their gates.
So okay, now we have the farmers, we have the middlemen who we are going to slash out anytime from now, because basically they are cheating, you know, the farmers. So we move on now to the next, the processors and the exporters. Okay, I believe that just as the middlemen also, sometimes the exporters themselves and the processors also cheat the farmers. But still, how can the exporters and the processors basically also be of value? You know, what strategies can they use to improve the coffee business?
Okay, The processors, mainly their main role is to add value to the fresh harvested cherries.
Yeah.
One, they select out the unripe and the immatures so that they can remain with only red ripe cherries for quality aspects. Then they go ahead and follow different processing technique, whether washed or natural or semi-washed, until they get the final product within the primary processing stage. Yeah.
Okay, so
then this is where the exporters now come in to take dry coffee, either in green beans or in dry cherry or dry parchment. Then the exporter, because what I realized, most exporters do have secondary processing facilities. They have the hullers, commercial hullers. They have graders. They have gravity tables that can select out less denser beans from heavy beans, small beans, then the colored beans, blacks and everything. So they also play a role in grading the coffee to different sizes, to different grades.
Okay, so now the processors, the exporters have done their job. Okay, so we keep moving on up in the chain. Okay, now it goes, let's say, to the coffee shops. Okay, these guys have done their part. They have moved it. Okay, let's forget about the one being exported. Okay, let's think about the one being used in Uganda. Okay, so we have the CEOs or the owners of these different coffee shops who basically have the role of getting the coffee from where it is to their coffee shops. Okay, and they play an important role, because without them the process would have stopped at a certain point. There would be no consumption, you know, of the coffee. So what part do the CEO play here, and how can they use their position as the CEOs, as business owners, you know, to also improve, you know, the coffee business?
One, I'll talk about the coffee owners or the secondary processing facility owners. One thing that I've done is to provide employment opportunities to the youths. So when you move into those facilities, you may find most of the workers are youth. So at least they've played their part to provide jobs to us. As the baristas, we have the roasters, we have the quality controllers. Yes. Okay.
Well, we're going to take another break. We've been talking about how basically the different stakeholders in the coffee business can help to improve this business in Uganda. We have talked about the farmers, we have talked about the exporters, and coming back to the show after this break, we'll be talking about the role of the baristas, because I know the baristas, we are very many, and the roasters. So we'll take a break now, grab a cup of coffee, and we'll be right back. This is the Coffee Break Show on House of Talent Television with me, Emmanuel.
So I used to love the way our barista used to present his cups. For example, one day he presented some nice coffee. It was a cappuccino, very nice, presented. And I asked him, you know, how do you make this? He said, you go to a school and study. So I used to love the passion he had. So I said one day I should learn this. So I kept on serving his orders. But I found out that most of the orders were according to the way he was feeling. You know, baristas present their cups according to the way they are feeling, according to the mood. In case he left home when he's sad, he's not happy, you will see the results in the cup. But when you see something beautiful, just know he's so happy. So the passion he had and the love he used to put in the cup really encouraged me to join the school. Not until I got to learn about Isaac at the Pro Plus. Then I came with some of my friends, so we are now doing that course.
Young people at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation, because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They've moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call, I never call it Facebook, it's Bookface. Why are you on Bookface? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
Me, I keep saying, I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
And I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and in the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Remember Prince?
Yes.
Prince.
Welcome back to the Coffee Break on House of Talent Television. Remember, you can always catch us on our Facebook handle, on our Twitter, and also on YouTube, on our website at houseoftalentug.com. Don't ever miss the show. If you're a coffee enthusiast, if you love coffee, if you're a CEO, if you're a farmer, wherever you are in the coffee process, basically, you're very important to the coffee industry, and we need you to take this coffee game to a whole new level. Before we left off, we're talking about how the different stakeholders in the coffee business are playing their part, are adding value to basically take coffee in Uganda to where it's supposed to be. And before we left, we talked about the farmers, we talked about the exporters, we talked about the middlemen who Ibrahim thinks that, are going to be cut off because there are certain shady things that they do here and there. Well, Ibrahim, welcome back to the show. And before we went off, we were talking about how important are the baristas? Because I know that most people just focus on being a barista. Everyone wants, to have that cup and, design it really well. Yeah. Yeah. So what part do the baristas play? How important are they?
Actually, I've come to realize that we play a very, very, very big part.
Yeah.
So we are the mouthpiece of the coffee industry.
Yeah.
So, for example, maybe you're a very common person. You've walked into a coffee shop. You want to know more about this coffee, and you want to have this great cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So the first thing that will give you the impression, one, is the aromas in the coffee shop. Be like, this coffee smells so good.
Yeah.
So it will give you energy to go and, you know what, can I have a cup of coffee that I'm smelling?
Yeah.
Okay. So baristas will play a very, very big role. One, we have to, in fact, we represent the farmers' efforts.
Yeah.
The moment you brew a very bad cup of coffee, trust me, like, which coffee are you using? This coffee is from maybe Mbale. Mbale coffee is not nice. No. So you draw that final conclusion according to that cup of coffee that you've made.
Yeah.
So if you're really a very bad, I don't want to use bad, if you're not really a good barista, that thing would still reflect to the what?
To the cup.
To the farmer. It'll be like, farmers in a
certain place.
in a certain region, they have bad coffee just because he had a very bad coffee from a coffee shop that we are using coffee from what? From that region.
Yeah.
So we are the mouthpiece. So we speak for the farmers, we speak for the coffee.
Yeah.
So if someone, let me say a Brazilian gentleman moves from Brazil to Uganda just to come and have this coffee experience, and he luckily enough finds a very good barista, explains more knowledge about the coffee that he's serving, and goes ahead and delivers a very nice coffee cup. So this Brazilian will be like, wow, Ugandan coffee is very, very nice. You get, just that impression has given him that Ugandan coffee is far, far better than maybe the Brazilian of which we are. Yeah. So we play a very, very big part.
Yeah, so I know that in most coffee schools, everyone has to be a barista, basically. And I believe that it's a very good thing. And like you said, you guys are the mouthpiece to the process, you know. It's like how people work in the kitchen, they cook and everything, but the food has to finally come out.
Yeah.
You know, and when the food comes out, people will test it, and you know, they will judge, you know, the process. And it's I love how you say that, you know, when someone tests a cup, you know, they will think about where it came from.
Yes.
Okay. So they will grade those people based on what?
On that
they're
cup.
testing. Yeah. And sometimes it's, if I don't want to say a bad cup of coffee, but if the cup is not that good, okay, basically it might not be from where it's from. It might just be the barista who didn't do it well. Yeah. So baristas really need to step up their game. Yeah.
Yes.
But now the last person on this chain is the consumer.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know that consumers have high demands. Sometimes they'll enter a coffee shop and they'll tell you to make them a drink you've totally never had. Yeah. So how can these consumers, also play their part in making this process really good and easier also, you know, for the other people in the process?
So one thing I want to tell all the coffee consumers out there: when you're buying this coffee, don't buy it just because someone is buying it or someone is taking coffee. When you buy a cup of coffee, just know that you're impacting a lot to the farmers. Yes. So every coin that you give in to buy that pack of coffee or that cup of coffee, you're helping a farmer. Yes.
Okay. So one question I always like to ask: let's imagine you're at your station, okay, and this customer walks in and they order a drink that you've never heard of, or they saw it somewhere and they want you to mix, and you know, because you can't do it for them, okay, they get a very bad attitude, you know. So as a barista, how do you handle such situations with such customers? Because interpersonal relationship is very important. Okay, so how would you, as Ibra, handle? I've come and I'm shouting at you, you know. How would you handle that?
So basically, we have qualities or rules that govern baristas. Most baristas do not know them. But I personally, I got to know them. When you're supposed to be calm under pressure. However rude the client is supposed to be calm. For example, you know, there's a customer care attendant, Airtel and MTN, the way they answer the phone calls. However rude you are, they will always stick to their professional
demeanor.
Yes, be like, hello sir, how can I help you? However rude you are. So that's the same thing that we baristas are supposed to do. I happened to get I think he was a white. I didn't know which country he was coming from, but this person was very, very rude. Very rude. So I had to be like very polite, very calm. And you know what? I can't do this. I can't do what you're telling me to do because I have no idea about it. But I can do for you something related to it. So we had a menu item that was close to what he was asking for. So I made it very, very nice. So I gave it, I was like, wow, this is actually the best. So the person who came in like quarreling and very rude, we actually became friends. So we are supposed to be very, very calm, under pressure. Very polite.
Interesting. I like how you compared it to being a customer. Because sometimes we call those people and, you know, we're always shouting at them. But I believe that as a barista, basically, you're not only representing the people in the process, but you're also representing the shop where you're working, the coffee shop. Because if one customer has a bad experience, okay, and word of mouth moves around and they say such and such a coffee shop doesn't
have... baristas are
you see that? So it basically affects everyone in the process. But for the baristas out there, always remember that you should be on top of your game when you're dealing with people. You should be very courteous, you should be very calm, because situations are going to push you into the corner and you need to handle these situations, because at the end of the day you are serving people, and whatever you do will not only affect you, it will affect the coffee shop, everyone down the process. It will affect this coffee break show. You know, everyone will have a bad attitude towards coffee.
There's another thing that really came into us baristas. We associate with different people of different color. I happen to be one of the victims. So the way we treat whites should be the same, the way we treat the blacks. Yes, I happen to be a victim I was at the coffee shop. So a white lady came in. So I gave her full attention. So I was like, what's going on here? Aren't we clients? I realized that actually it's very, very bad. We should treat everyone the same, whether white or black, whether female or male, whether young or old, should treat them equally.
There's that good customer experience that has to be general for everyone.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the best part of the show always, this is the part that people wait for. We're going to get into brewing a cup of coffee now, but as we get into it, you told me that you've been in different competitions, barista competitions.
Yes.
Yeah, and sometimes you've come as the third overall. Sometimes you've come as the second overall. So where are these competitions held, first of all? And how does one get into them?
So there's always the main body that organize competitions. That's the Uganda Coffee Development Authority. So basically barista competitions and cup testers championship. Yes. So one can get involved into, in case they run an advert that we are holding a competition, just have to go and apply. It's free of charge. Yeah.
Okay. So what are some of the things they look for when they're judging this competition?
As long as you can. If you can,
you should go there.
You should go.
So what are they testing you on? On different types of coffee cups that you can make, on different ways that you can bring out new stuff. Because I believe that with research, you can actually develop a product that is only yours.
Yes.
Do they look into some of these things?
They look at very many things. One, customer service. How do you present that coffee in front of your clients? In that case, the judges. How do you talk to them? How do you convince them to take your beverage? Another thing, how best you make your coffee. So there's always the best espresso of the year, best signature, best cappuccinos. Best female barista, best male barista of the year. Then another thing is creativity. That's where the signature drink comes in. How creative you are to develop a very nice signature drink. Yes.
I think one day we should have you back and just have you make for us a signature drink. You can go back in the lab and make like 10 of those things and come back. Well, we have reached to that part of the show where we get to brew a good cup of coffee, and I'll hand it over to you because this is your part. So what we usually do is just take the viewers through what do we have here, what type of equipment are we going to use, what type of coffee are we going to brew, because there's certain people at home there who usually want to take it step by step by step. So I'll hand it over to you to just take us through what we're going to brew today.
Okay, so in front of us we have it's a new equipment. It's actually it's my second time to use it. Why am I using it the second time? Because the first time I used it, it was so interesting. So it looks fancy.
It does.
But it's a very, very nice equipment. It's called a carafe. It originated from those Arabs. So it was used to serve water, wine, coffee, juice.
Looks actually interesting. I've not seen one,
So the unique thing is about it. It has like a handle where you can serve your beverage from. You don't need to open all this and start fidgeting around. So it operates in the same way a Chemex operates, or a V60. So it has a filter. Only that for it has a filter holder. Yes.
Okay.
But nothing changes. So going to brew our coffee. This is my signature blend.
Hand grinded.
Hand grinded. So it's a blend of honey processed coffee from Sipi and washed bourbon variety from Burundi.
So I want to get the better of both worlds. One from Burundi, one from Uganda.
Okay. Everything all combined.
This is going to be interesting. So if you're at home following us, just follow into the process, get your coffee, and right now we're at the level of, we're just putting the coffee into the filter so that you can basically, start the process of our brew.
So you level off, and enough we don't have a weighing scale. so you can still brew the coffee.
I think by now the people who have been watching, you can basically, you know, assume how much coffee
you need, yeah.
Something that is very important, remember to always, you know, when you're pouring your water, don't pour it just like you're pouring tea.
Yeah.
You have to pour it in a swirling motion so that, you know, the water can reach every, you know, part of the coffee.
Yeah.
So I think this one takes a shorter time to brew.
Yeah, like 3 minutes or 2.5 minutes.
2.5 minutes, yeah. Okay. For those watching at home and you want to really have a good cup of coffee, you can follow Ibra on Instagram. Actually, I was seeing your Instagram, and you know, I'm actually glad that baristas are now seeing the importance of social media.
Yeah.
You know, seeing Swabra Banks, the coffee goddess, you know, and all that. You guys marketing yourselves. I believe that even if you're a very good barista, basically, if you don't market yourself, it's also going to be hard for you to get to the next level.
True.
Yeah, so get onto Instagram, get onto Facebook, onto Twitter.
Actually, social media is one of the platforms that we are supposed to be working with, so that you can market yourself.
Yeah.
Right now, I was so surprised to have a conversation with the World Barista Champion 2015. That's Sasa Sestic. And he gave me this opportunity that we even had a Zoom meeting. We had to talk about more of his innovation, the carbonic maceration. And he's so excited to come in Uganda. So he told me that the next time when he comes to Kenya, he'll definitely find a way how we can meet and, you know, talk and taste my coffee.
Yeah, which is a very good thing. So you see how you got connections, you know, just off social media. And there are very many baristas. Actually, there are very many who are not taking, you know, advantage of this process. Yeah. It looks like a very good cup of coffee that, you know, we're going to be having today. Something different from Burundi and from Uganda. Yeah. So how did you come up with this blend of, you know, actually putting Uganda and Burundi together?
At our coffee shop, we have different coffee brands from different regions within Uganda and different countries within the world. So far we have coffee from Burundi, Congo, Rwanda, of course Uganda. So I happened to test these coffees separately. So I was like, how about if I add this coffee, because we have very nice coffee that has this kind of complexity. Those guys that have the bourbon variety, so it's like a new variety from ours. Ours more SL14 and SL28 and original Bugiso. So their coffees are very, very nice, but they have a character that they're lacking, of which our coffees do have. So I was like trying to blend in and see.
So you created a marriage of sorts.
Yeah,
very interesting. I think that's why we need to reach, you know, where people actually try to do different things with coffee. When it gets so monotonous, you know, I think for some people the coffee gets boring. But when you can do things like this, always keeps, like now, let's say for me, a customer, always keeps me waiting for what is going to do next. What is Ibra going to do next, you know, the next time I go to visit him at his shop. For those who are watching, we're about to partake of our cup of coffee, which I believe is very well brewed. Before we get there, we're still talking about, you know, the different competitions that UCDA holds. There's also the World Barista Championships. Now, I know that there are many baristas out there who might want to get into these competitions. You know, they have the information, but they are scared. Because, you know, sometimes when you look at a competition like that, you basically get very scared and think, you know what, can I do this? Do I have, you know, the knowledge and everything? So I want you to look into that camera and just talk to the baristas. Let them know that, you know what, it's actually a good thing for them, you know, to get there.
So I'll give myself as an example. One, I can't play football. I can't play tennis. I can't play basketball. So competition is like a game to me. Yes, you get onto your nerves and get scared, you even shake. But one thing you need to know, this is a learning process. Don't fear to compete. Show what you have. You never know, the next time you might actually upgrade. There are a lot of things to learn in a competition. Like, for example, myself, the way I started to compete, in 2017, it's not actually the same way that I can compete right now. Yeah. It's totally different. Yeah. So you get to learn more things in the competition. Yeah.
Yeah. And the last question before we go, because our time is fast spent. The coffee business, okay, is male dominated, okay, and you rarely see very many ladies visible in the process. Let it be farming, let it be being a barista, let it be being a CEO, okay. Yes. So why aren't women, you know, that involved? Why aren't ladies that involved in the coffee business? Is that a matter of these things are forbidden? Is it fear? And how can we get more of them involved, you know, in the process?
I think this. I think most female feel like being a barista is more of a male job, or being a farmer is a male thing, or being a quality controller. Yet they don't know that there are other perfect people that we are looking at. So we want to bring this gender equality into the coffee business. I would thank this the International Women Coffee Alliance. It has really done a very good job to encourage women into the coffee business. When you look at coffee farmers or coffee processors, most of them are women. Yeah. When you look at the quality controllers, they say that women are the best coffee testers. Why? Because they're very subjected to spices when they're cooking. Yeah. They get a lot of flowers from us. So they test a lot of things, ice cream, yogurt, sweets, what. So they are good cup testers. Yeah. Yes.
So most of them should actually, you know, take opportunity.
Yeah. I would actually encourage all the female to participate in the coffee business, whether owning a coffee shop, whether analyzing coffee, barista, farming. Yeah. We really need them.
Well, if you're out there and you're a lady and you're thinking, you know what, you have no part to play in the coffee business, you're very important and you have a very big part to play. So take up the mantle, you know, encourage other ladies, encourage the young girls. And for the men out there, don't step on the ladies as they're coming up in the coffee in the coffee business. Yeah. You should actually encourage them. Well, we have come to the end of our show for today. Ibra, I just want to thank you for, you know, being on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm really very happy.
Yeah, I believe that, you know, it's not the last time we're going to have you here, you know. We're always going to have you back, you know, because I believe that as time goes, you know, you grow in knowledge, and this is the kind of knowledge that we have. So you've been on the coffee break with me, Emmanuel, and Ibra. Catch us again next time. We'll be talking to someone else, and if you want to know who that is, well, you'd have to tune in next time we are on. This has been the Coffee Break on House of Talent Television. My name is Ateng Emmanuel. Till next time, have a blessed day.
I wish everyone in the music scene success, but they are not going to move for as long as the people in the government does not respect art and look at art as a form of competition to them. We're wasting time. Also, the structures are put in place. People like Balaam and a few other people who just come in. I'm reading it here. It says people like Balaam who come in, says who have you know, proximity to the powers that be. Instead, they who even hand from music and promote music. Sometimes when these challenges come, they are supposed to be able to tell the people in authority that, look, this is where I also earn my money from and support. But instead, sometimes they also manipulate the system. I respect them, but they earn from the system, the music industry, but they're also the same people who don't support the music industry. I'm being honest. I hope you can read my comment on the show, because I've sent comments before on TV and it's never read.
Okay, I think, honest, I understand personally. I really understand the frustrations of all the people. I am some of us are more and always frustrated, but we try to keep a smiley face. And everyone has a lot. If you start inviting people to talk about the challenges they face with the investments they make here, you will be overwhelmed. So it's really true, and I really think, as they say, they need to be considered. There's a need to really find out how do we all take part in this shared responsibility. How can we all have a shared vision for our country? I'm not talking about politics. Now, in the arts, in the creative industry, how can we grow it together? How can we share the pie or the cake that is there, so that we don't grab everything to oneself? When I see people mentioning names and saying this one takes the thing, I have no problem with those people. But I think also, if other people are there in the market, then they should be given an opportunity, or even thoughtful. We can't always keep things in one side, on one side.
When an artist come out to say we need help, it's instead an opportunity for them to squeeze them more, and to say, hold this one here, give this one. How are we going to move forward?
I think it's a challenge on both ways. For me, there are people who are independent and they don't seek, how do you call those envelopes? They don't seek, they don't go begging. Of course, there is another way of begging, like we go to organizations, we go to foundations, we beg, yes. But this functional begging, whereby also the givers make it difficult for the people who are being given to feel like they are being supported genuinely. So for me, it would be very difficult to convince myself to go and ask government for support. It would be very, very difficult, because I know the moment I do that, I would have made a choice. They would say, you chose a side. You get what I mean? I love my independency. I love to be neutral. I don't do politics. And I can't go for political money, because it gives me a feeling of like I am not honest with myself and I'm not honest with the principles of my work, so I can't go there. Yet there are others who feel like they don't have a choice. They have to go for it, and you can't blame them, because if there was a structure which could say like the government as a government, not the parties or the politics, but the government has the way it does for other institutions, that if you want money, you go to this institution, and that money you apply for it. If you are genuinely able to receive that money, you get it like anyone else. Yeah. But there isn't that structure. So they resort to shortcuts. And these shortcuts are not really sustainable as well.
COVID-19 has tested our hope and faith as individuals, families, and the country at large. Besides destroying many aspects of our lives, the novel coronavirus has also affected our human rights in many ways. You and the Law, the COVID edition, is a 30-minute weekly television program that focuses on the impact of COVID-19 on human rights in Uganda. The program engages experts to explain the importance of rights-based approaches to the success of any public health response to ensure the respect, protection, and fulfillment of human rights amidst the challenges presented by COVID-19. You and the Law, the television program, brought to you by Legal Hub Uganda, taking the law to the last mile in proud association with I4C Africa Hub and House of Talent Television.
Also, in terms of access to justice, it was much later on that lawyers were considered essential workers.
So with all the swag that lawyers have,
with all of it,
at a certain point, border riders were more important than...
Yes, yes. So where there were violations, people were not able to access the services of a lawyer for advice, or even if you want to take on the matter through litigation, it was hard, because then how do you give instructions to your lawyer if your lawyer is unable to move?
You and the Law, the COVID edition. My name is Jonathan Ochom, your host, and today we're privileged to host Ms. Rebecca Tayo, the legal officer at Land Uganda, who's helping us discuss the impacts of COVID-19 on land rights in Uganda and even across the world, recognizing the fact that the pandemic has really hit the country hard and affected so many of the rights of ordinary people in this country. So, Rebecca, we're talking about land rights now and how it's been affected by COVID-19. And you know that for us to have this conversation, then we need to position it from the angle of the obligation that exists on human rights, and maybe specifically land rights in this context. So I thought we could start the conversation by highlighting what are the things that the state, the government of Uganda should do to protect land rights, and more so in difficult times like this.
Okay, thank you so much, Jonathan. The state has the obligation to fulfill, or there are basically three kinds of obligations that the state has. The obligation to respect, to fulfill, and to protect the human right to land. If we start with the obligation to respect the right to land, that means the government or the state should refrain from interfering indirectly or directly with the enjoyment of this right. This obligation includes things like refraining from participating in forced evictions or promoting activities that destroy or arbitrarily deprive citizens of access to land or control over land. But even when it comes to things like compulsory acquisition of land, properly defining what amounts, or the concept of public purpose or public interest
it's a very
of land.
Controversial areas.
So so as not to arbitrarily deprive citizens of that right to land, but also recognizing and respecting customary rights or ways and ownership ways of controlling and managing land, and commons of common properties within communities,
yes.
Because they have their particular uses that have been designated to them.
Through culture.
Exactly.
Through,
Maybe sacred places of worship, grazing corridors. These may look like idle lands, and yet in fact they are commons that are used by these communities for a specific purpose. Okay. When it comes to the right to protect, or the duty, sorry, to protect people's land rights, so it basically entails protecting people's ability to access, people's ability to use and to control land, and this calls for the state to be able to adopt necessary and effective legislative and policy frameworks that protect people's ability to use.
So in other words, you're saying a state should, put a law to stop me from grabbing your land.
Exactly. Like or a law that facilitates you to use your land without unnecessary interferences from outside, but also restraining third parties who want to infringe on your rights to land or participate in forced evictions. Also ensuring that the rules and mechanisms that have been put in place governing access to land do not operate in a discriminatory manner. And in our case, for example, favoring the elite or those with money or access or nearest to power, as opposed to those who are not, or men and women, because of cultural beliefs and patriarchy, things like that. When it comes to the obligation to fulfill the right to land, states are required to provide and facilitate secure and sustainable access to land. So, for example, in certain countries, they've implemented agrarian reform such that the landless are able to access land.
Some pieces.
Yes, so some pieces of land, so as to be able to sustain their livelihoods, have a source of income, access food, improve food security, but also the examples of refugees who come into the country and are landless.
And you always complain that they are favored by the government.
Yes. So the government has an obligation to fulfill that human right by providing land for them so that they can be able to grow food, derive some form of livelihood from there, also establish a form of housing or shelter on that particular piece of land. So that is government's obligation to fulfill. But also government has the obligation, or the state has the obligation to eliminate all forms of discrimination when it comes to access, use and control of land, and where it actually identifies particular groups that have been marginalized when it comes to that, it has the duty to eliminate or rectify those particular instances. And we've seen that in our case it's being done, we're trying to do it through reform of the succession law, but also Article 21 of our Constitution that provides for freedom from discrimination.
And it's a good recap of really what the state needs to do. But then we're discussing this in the context where we are dealing with a global pandemic, and government was sort of forced to put in place some difficult measures. Could you sort of run up through some of the measures that government put in place? One, to curb the spread of the COVID virus, but at the same time then you could give us your insights on how those measures actually affected land rights in Uganda.
Thank you once again, Jonathan. I think some of the measures, if I may recall correctly, were in the first wave, we had a total lockdown. Total lockdown of the country, not just inter-district travel and whatnot, but we were supposed to stay home, and only essential workers were identified and given stickers to be able to move around and do their work. So that essentially means that a number of government offices, including those that deal with land management and administration, were equally locked. Courts of law were not accessible, except I think for certain criminal matters, and there were also SOPs, standard operating procedures that were put in place. So there was a requirement for social distancing, the number of people who could be within a courtroom, or convene in one place was restricted. Movement was restricted. You could not move without authorization. So access also was a problem. How did these particular measures affect land rights? I think in terms of land administration, people were not able to access the services of these structures.
Yes, district land offices.
District land offices, ministerial zonal offices were all locked or partially locked. So that means transactions were put to a halt. But even people that were looking for some form of redress where violations had happened could not access these particular offices. Then in terms of security of tenure, we saw an increase in wanton evictions. Every other day in the news we saw
story
of people had been evicted from land, and these were mainly illegal evictions because some of them they were not backed by a court order. Or where they were backed by a court order, the Chief Justice's directives were not followed to the latter. So they were legal in a sense. Then we also saw that women were disproportionately affected when it still came to security of tenure, because the numbers indicate that more men died as compared to women. And stressing back to patriarchy and culture, women tend to derive their security of tenure on land through a male figure in their family. So that could be a father, that could be a brother, that could be a husband. So when especially women were disinherited, widows, when husbands passed on, they were easily disinherited by their families and chased out of their land.
That sounds like, you know, a controversial position.
Fast stretch.
Yeah, but I mean, it's reality. Men died, so women died. And viewers, I think this is an important point for us to go for a break so that we're able to recap on some of the effects of this virus on land rights. So let's go for a short break. We'll be right back. COVID-19 came and disorganized our economy, brought our health system to its knees, and along the way, affected our rights significantly. This is You and the Law, the COVID edition, here on House of Talent Television. My name is Jonathan Ochom, your host. Welcome back. This is You and the Law, the COVID edition, and today we're joined by Ms. Rebecca Tayo from Lanet, Uganda, to discuss the implications of COVID-19 on land rights in the country. Rebecca, welcome from the break.
Thank you.
Before we broke off, you were still explaining the implications of the coronavirus, especially you analyzing the measures by government and how this has affected land rights in the country. Perhaps you could carry on from there.
Thank you, Jonathan. I think in addition to what we mentioned earlier, people's livelihoods were affected. A number of Ugandans depend on agriculture as a source of livelihood and a source of income. So because they were unable during that period, because of movement was restricted, so they were not able to access markets. Markets were closed. I think even weekly and seasonal markets in districts were all shut down. So they were not able to sell their produce. So even prices, during that period, we saw that prices of food products or food commodities really dunked and was really low.
Matoke was being, sold at 5,000, I think, for a cluster.
A tray of eggs was, I think, it was at its lowest. But also in terms of inputs, it was hard for farmers to access inputs, agricultural inputs, because these were equally closed. So they could not access pesticides, hose and whatnot, even though they were eventually opened up as a form of essential services. There was still movement issues made it hard for them to access this particular service. Then in terms of encroachment of land, so many complaints were coming in that people's land had been encroached on, especially where you have absentee landlords, I would say. You live quite a distance from your piece of land. We had people who are encroaching on your land, extending boundaries, and because you don't have the ability to physically access,
go and move over.
Yes, your piece of land, you come and find that the damage has already been done.
The neighbor has already erected a perimeter wall.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Also, in terms of access to justice, it was much later on that lawyers were considered essential workers.
So with all the swag that lawyers have,
with all of it,
at a certain point, border riders were more important than
Yes, yes. So where there were violations, people were not even were not able to access the services of a lawyer for advice, or even if you want to take on the matter through litigation, it was hard, because then how do you give instructions to your lawyer if your lawyer is unable to move? So that was one of the challenges in terms of access to justice. But even these other justice mechanisms, for example, the local council courts, it was hard for them to convene. One, those courts have capacity issues in terms of both skill and knowledge. They're not properly capacitated to handle. They operate almost like formal courts. If you look at the requirements in the Local Council Courts Act, it's close to how a formal, they are also formal courts, but how the magistrates court would operate, or the high court. So they don't have the capacity, but also because of standard operating procedures, social distancing, you can only convene so many people. What about what about summoning your witnesses? Where are they coming from? What if it's quite a distance? Are they able to come? So all those were challenges. And then during this period, we also saw, in terms of property rights generally, we saw that so many buildings were being erected very fast.
I mean, that's an interesting angle, because then when a lockdown, the economy shut down. I wonder how people were able to build or to get money for building, but
we can only speculate on where this money was coming from, because everyone else was crying and complaining that the economy was doing badly, while buildings were coming up at a very fast rate. So not most, but a number of these buildings were not following strict building regulation and restrictions. So we've seen what has happened to them.
Seen some of them collapsing recently.
Yes. So I think that was those are some of the effects of the pandemic on land and property rights that I can think of.
I mean, really, from your explanation, you've touched on several aspects. You've talked about food security. You talked about land as a right of its own. You talked about construction industry, and I think that emphasizes or demonstrates the centrality of land in our general setup as a country, the value that land plays in our lives as citizens. But Rebecca, now we're in a phase where, we're still living with COVID, when these times emerging from lockdown after lockdown, reopening and stuff like that. Let's visualize, say, 4 or 5 years from now. We pass over this period and then something else happens. What do we learn from COVID? What can we do best as a country to ensure that the next time we find ourselves in a situation like this, we have adequate measures to protect people's land rights? Because from your explanation, this right has spillover effects on many other rights, and if we are reluctant, if we have not thought through the measures that we put in place from that angle, chances are we could be worsening the situation for citizens in this country. What would you flag off as, you know, a few lessons we learn and / recommendations, really?
Thank you again, Jonathan. I think it's important to first of all recognize that the government, this was a novel situation. Yeah. They had never been in this situation before. So
some people argue that we had cholera, we had Ebola.
It was not to
this.
The extent was different. This was the whole world was from the first lockdown, the whole world was experiencing this for the very first time. So even having, what we were doing was ad hoc, we have to admit.
Just patching things together.
It was a knee-jerk reaction to the circumstances. And I like to believe that government did the best it could given the circumstances.
Rebecca, we could argue that, you know, the virus started in Wuhan. I think that was December 2019. We had enough time to think through. The first case in Uganda was reported. So the knee-jerk reaction for me, that argument doesn't fly, because I think what adequate time as a country to prepare.
You could argue that for the second lockdown. For the first lockdown, no one ever imagined in 2019 December that the virus affecting Wuhan in China would eventually be here one day.
Deep down in
we thought that it would be contained. At some point, we would not have to grapple with the same challenges that Wuhan was grappling with. But lo and behold, it got us here. So what lessons or recommendations can we learn? And hopefully we don't have to go through this again, but what could we learn? Well, I think it's important that government, first of all, when it's dealing with issues to do with land and land rights, it's important to center people's needs, people's livelihoods, people's aspirations when it comes to land. Let's not view land just as a commodity or a factor of production that could facilitate us to have economic development or move to middle income status. Yeah. But it should really center people's livelihood in this conversation. Secondly, it's important that when some of these decisions are being made, participation. What stakeholders are you calling to the table from whatever different sectors to consult and see how do these decisions that we are proposing to make affect your sector and how better or how can we better them so that the impact is lessened.
So suggesting people should be told, you know, we're going to lock down the counter. What do you think of it?
I don't think you can call the whole country and consult them on particular matters, but they are representatives of the people. You have the legislature, but you also have technical staff within these ministries.
Local government.
Yes, local government that are able to sit down and assess the impact of particular decisions on a sector. So that's the kind of participation and consultation that we'd like to see happening.
Becky, I have to interrupt you there because you have to go for a break. I will pick on when we return with sort of your parting shots still around the recommendations that need to be done by the government of Uganda in future to deal with such situations. Viewers, you're watching You and the Law, the COVID edition. My name is Jonathan Ochom. Let's go for a short break and we'll be right back.
When it comes to the law, we basically live the law, you know, on a day-to-day basis, you know. Whether it is in your bedroom, there is a law that governs it. If you're married, for example, even if you're single, there could be something touching on the law, because you might be in your bedroom with an underage girl, or you might be with another person's wife, you know. All the things are the law, you know.
If you're a human being, you have rights. Those rights are called human rights. They are examples: the right to health, the right to freedom from torture, that underscores human dignity, freedom from slavery. You're not supposed to be someone's slave.
If you look at our penal code, it sets out another marriage laws. It sets out the persons who can marry and those who cannot marry, right? For example, you can't marry your close relatives. You know, if you did, you'd be committing a crime.
The state is not supposed to tell you who to worship, how to worship, how many times a day. No, you have a right to work. A right to work. You have freedom of association.
Cohabitation for whatever period of time does not make you husband and wife, right? And that is why we emphasize to people that when the relationship is still hot, you know, you must ensure that you do what? Marry.
Yes.
You know?
For human rights to be respected, protected, and fulfilled, relevant government programs must actually work. Medicine should reach hospitals. Oxygen should be there. Health workers should have gloves. Teachers should be present. Now they are mostly absent, and they have left the profession, a good number of them. They are into trading. So things must work. If things don't work, human rights are not respected, are not protected, and are not fulfilled.
COVID-19 has tested our hope and faith as individuals, families, and the country at large. Besides destroying many aspects of our lives, the novel coronavirus has also affected our human rights in many ways. You and the Law, the COVID edition, is a 30-minute weekly television program that focuses on the impact of COVID-19 on human rights in Uganda. The program engages experts to explain the importance of rights-based approaches to the success of any public health response to ensure the respect, protection, and fulfillment of human rights amidst the challenges presented by COVID-19. You and the Law, the television program, brought to you by Legal Hub Uganda, taking the law to the last mile in proud association with I4C Africa Hub and House of Talent Television, coming soon.
Welcome back. This is House of Talent Television. You're watching You and the Law, the COVID edition, proudly brought to you by Legal Hub Uganda in partnership with I4C Africa Hub. Today we're discussing the implications of COVID-19 on land rights, and in studio we have Ms. Rebecca Tayo from Land Uganda to help us unpack this. Rebecca, before we went for a break, you were emphasizing the need for participation as a key lesson that should inform future interventions if we find ourselves in such a difficult time. And I thought we could carry on from there to examine, what other ways the government of Uganda can protect land rights when we have a pandemic or in extraordinary times like those that we find ourselves now.
Okay, thank you so much, Jonathan. I think another way is ensuring that there's accountability, especially where violations have happened.
That's a... Okay.
People want to know that in case someone violates my rights, the state, taking on its duty to protect this right seriously, will bring to book whoever has violated.
So if somebody has grabbed my land and
yes,
in a lockdown especially.
Yes, we're not seeing a number of these people who have especially been engaging in evictions being brought to book. So it appears as if the state is condoning such acts. But even empowering communities to be able to deal with some of these effects within, empowering communities to use their structures to resolve some cases that can be resolved at community level through use of traditional justice systems, through use of the LC court system, which is closest to them. So things such as those. And finally, transparency.
Yes.
Yeah, conducting whatever measures are being done, they should be done in a transparent manner.
By that, you may want to throw in a certain light. What exactly are we dealing with, especially from our angle of what would transparency look like from our context of land rights protection amidst a pandemic like COVID-19?
I think it's important that people know how exactly, for example, you see when people were confused as to how you can get help in this situation, during a lockdown, who do I turn to? So even though they had stipulated that, say, the ministerial zonal offices and the courts were operating mainly for criminal cases, but then who do I turn to? It was not very clear who actors could turn to in case of violations. But also in terms of particular interventions, it was not still transparent. I don't know how to put it, but transparency needed to be, it needed to be clearly.
A bit of information flow.
Exactly. Yeah. Information was not readily available for people.
In other circles, people have been urging that the future lies in technology. People are saying that, you know, we need to, I think, as part of, you know, the COVID response, even the courts attempted to do a bit of, you know, digital services. And even, I know that the Minister of Lands has been working around getting their things digital. How do you look at the role of technology in helping us protect land rights in this situation? What could have been done? What role could technology have played in dealing with the effects of COVID-19 on our land rights?
I think technology is definitely the future. I would agree, because we are moving in that direction. And I think courts try to adopt this the best by having some court cases heard online or digitally. The problem with technology is that it leaves certain groups of a community behind. So it may be discriminatory in a sense, because not everyone is up to speed with the technology or even has access to tools that would enable them partake of this technology. So whereas would encourage us to move in that direction, perhaps we should adopt like a two-pronged approach, where we use technology where it's convenient to use technology, maybe in urban settings, but for rural settings it may be much harder to implement this.
But as a land rights organization, Land at Uganda, and like you highlighted from the start, you do a lot of advocacy. Is this an area that requires, you know, more advocacy on, and if so, what exactly would you be proposing to the government in that regard?
The area of use of technology?
Yes, for land especially.
Yeah. I think we would start with use simple technology. Start by using something that can easily be understood by a layman. So, for example, use technology to convey messages or important messages around land rights to the community, instead of probably having the message conveyed through a poster or something like that. How about you have some form of let's say talking material, talking book that can talk about this. But also we like the fact that technology is being used for inland administration issues to do with demarcation and mapping. The only issue lies in regulation of the use of this technology. So we support the use of technology and technological advancement. It makes our work a lot easier. It's more efficiently done. But there needs to be, we need to remember to regulate, at the same time include everyone.
Okay. You're passionate about women's land rights as an organization, and I'm wondering, earlier on in your presentation you talked about death as a result of COVID-19 and how it has created sort of a new cluster of widows in the country, people who have died because of COVID-19. And we're thinking, how best can we prepare for situations like death? I mean, what can a person do in their family to ensure that, you know, when death happens, this is how I protect my loved ones? Because I know that, I mean, death's the fact of life, but then when you have a situation like COVID, it could come perhaps earlier than you could anticipate. You could have anticipated. I mean, we saw young people, 30s, 20s, 50s, you know, dying. How best can we? Because we're talking about the state mainly, but as individuals, how do we prepare ourselves to protect our land during pandemics like this, but also protect the interests of our loved ones who could be affected if we, you know, passed on?
I think the best way to do this is through writing of wills, because then you dictate in what way in which your estate will be distributed, who gets what, when, and how. So the best way to protect your family would be write a will. Write a will and follow the proper procedure.
You may want to explain that further, you know, writing a will.
Writing a will basically...
What does it take in practical sense?
There are requirements under the Succession Act that you must follow. It must be attested to. That means you must have at least 2 witnesses.
Who are these? Anyone? A lawyer? A
no,
friend,
it doesn't have to be a lawyer. Anyone can be a witness to your will. Preferably someone that's not going to benefit from the will, because then it becomes hard to prove this will once you've passed, because they have an interest. So it must be attested to, it must be written, note down and reduce whatever it is that you want to do on pen, on paper. Then it must be dated. You must clearly identify yourself, who you are, where you're from. You must sign this will. So those are some of the stringent requirements that are required. And preferably keep it in a safe place where family members are not able to access.
So within your house, or you could give it to a friend.
Within your household. It could cause more chaos.
I know some people have been giving this to those who have lawyers, you know, give it to their personal lawyers, others, you know, to a priest.
To a bank for safe custody. So wherever you think it's safe and its contents would not be revealed, that's where you can keep that.
I think that's an important area for perhaps another discussion on another day, because when you talk about wills, the practice of will writing in this country is still a little bit, you know, low and
shrouded by suspicion.
Yes, and many people think that if I write a will, I am inviting death. But I think COVID-19 has showed us that death can happen anytime. There's no designated period, and nobody knows when they will die, and it's just an event that can happen and could be caused by anything else, and we'll have to prepare, because in this show we've been emphasizing the role of government in protecting human rights, in protecting land and property rights, but at the same time, like Rebecca has indicated, it's important even as individuals to take necessary measures to ensure that our property, our land rights are protected in this period. We're coming to the tail end of the show. They can wonder what your parting shots could be as we sort of wrap up the show.
My parting shots would be, I think we mentioned it, we mentioned them when we were speaking about lessons and recommendations. There is need in whatever interventions we have to curb COVID-19 or perhaps any other pandemic or endemic we may face, is center the rights of people. When you're putting in place interventions, think about how it's going to affect people's livelihoods. Think about how is their food security. Think about even issues to do with access to justice. But have you centered their rights and their aspirations and needs as well? Yeah, those are my parting shots.
To the policymakers out there, Rebecca makes very strong points. We need to center our interventions on people's lives, on people's rights, because at the end of the day, the role of the state is to protect citizens, is to protect their rights. It's only fair that whatever intervention they put in place is based on the interests, on the rights of the people, because then we'll be able to have interventions or measures or policies that reflect the needs of the people and speak to their aspirations as citizens, which I think gets the buy-in and makes people appreciate why the government exists. With that, we've come to the end of today's edition of You and the Law. In the next episode, we'll be discussing yet another fundamental human right that has been affected by this virus. So tune into House of Talent Television. Keep following us on social media, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. Content is being streamed. And until then, I'll see you.